Chapter 881. On the 23rd of May, a war broke out at the border between the Celestial Empire and the Blackstone Empire. Qinyu, the second prince of the Celestial Empire, led 5,000 elite soldiers to attack Jinyun Pass. There were only 10,000 soldiers defending Jinyun Pass, but they didn't succeed after a day of hard attack. At night, Qinyu gave the order to set up Camp 5 Li outside of Goldenfield Pass. The soldiers were dispirited by the light of day, and Qinyu's face was ashen. He sat in the central tent with a worried frown. Whoosh! A gust of wind blew past. Liao Yang had arrived. "Greetings, Your Highness." "Liao Yang, come and sit." "What did Headmaster Han Yuan say?" Qinyu was very anxious. "Uncle said that he can't send people to help Your Highness yet." "Why?" Qinyu was shocked. "It's very simple. Uncle is the leader of the Celestial Extreme Sect. Every decision he makes is related to the life and death of the 30,000 disciples of the Celestial Extreme Sect. Second Prince is just a prince, not even a crown prince. Uncle can't bet everything on Second Prince." "This?" Qinyu gritted his teeth. "How can Headmaster Han Yuan not tell right from wrong? Damn it, damn it." Liao Yang laughed. "Your Highness, aren't you being too impatient?" They launched an attack during the day. On my way here, I saw that the camp was almost overcrowded. We must have suffered a lot today. They mobilized the militia. Qinyu frowned and said, "The defending general of Jinyun Pass was originally a mediocre person, but he actually mobilized nearly 20,000 militia to participate in the battle. Rocks rained down, otherwise we wouldn't have been defeated." "How many soldiers did we lose?" "More than 1,800. "So many?" Liao Yang was startled and said, "I think we should take our time to think about it." "Your Second Highness, don't worry. Although Uncle can't send people to help Your Highness, but Uncle told me that he will naturally appear when it's time. Moreover, he wants to make Your Second Highness make a decision that will change the history of the Heavenju Empire. Otherwise, the Heavenju sect will not help Your Highness with all their strength." "The decision to change the course of history?" Qinyu was dumbfounded. "Your Highness, don't think too much. Have some tea, ha." But right when Liao Yang hadn't sat down, the sound of a gong being struck sounded out abruptly from outside, and it was an expanse of clamorous noise as a sharp voice shouted loudly. "Bad news. The Darkstone Empire's bandits have attacked the camp." "Attacking the camp?" Qinyu shuddered. "Their losses today are higher than mine. Where did they get the troops to attack the camp?" As he spoke, he pulled out his sword and flew into the sky, piercing through the tent. He stepped on the clouds and looked into the distance. There was an endless stream of torches coming from the direction of Jinyun Pass. The sound of cavalry trampling on the ground could be faintly heard. There were at least 30,000 people coming. "Bastard! Bastard!" Qinyu looked into the distance and saw the words Chunyu written on the enemy's war flag. He couldn't help but murmur, "Chunyu, which general is it?" "Chunyu he." Liao Yang said indifferently, "Chunyu he is the general guarding Black Wind Pass. He is a famous general of the Blackstone Empire. He has 30,000 elites under him. It seems that Your Highness lured him here when you attacked the pass during the day. Your Highness remaining 3,000 soldiers are no match for him. Moreover, Chunyu he is a Saint Martial King with 58 heavens. It's better to avoid him." "This is infuriating." Qinyu's heart was filled with fire. The entire Tianju Empire had 1.5 million regular troops, but he could only bring 5,000 troops to attack, and he had even suffered such a humiliating defeat. This was all caused by his father, who wanted to live a peaceful life as the Eastern region's emperor, and his brother, who was addicted to sensual pleasures. The seed of hatred had been deeply planted. "Send the order to retreat. Retreat towards the direction of Yulin," Qinyu shouted. But he knew that there wouldn't be much of this army left. The pursuit continued until the next morning. Thick smoke billowed in the Yulin. Qinyu was in a daze. He even lost his sword. If it wasn't for Liao Yang's protection, he would have died under Chunyu He's steel blade. Looking back, there were less than 100 people following him. The legendary strongest private army of the imperial capital, the Second Prince's army, had already become history. Qinyu's heart ached. He gritted his teeth. Even his fists were bleeding. At this moment, the old cowherd's singing came from the forest. The singing was very melodious and it was a poem. Qinyu couldn't help but listen carefully. Holding a golden spoon in one's mouth without fetters, great ambitions are difficult. An emperor, a dream, thousands of troops returned the song. Listening carefully, the song was full of ridicule. Wasn't it talking about him? For a moment, Qinyu was infuriated. He shouted, Who dares to mock me like this? It's just a cowherd, a guard said. Take him down. This. While the guard was hesitating, Qin Yu spurred his horse past. He pulled out the guard's sword and rushed into the forest. He raised his sword and slashed at the old man. He shouted in a low voice, "Who are you? Show yourself." The old man was still herding the cowherd. He didn't even look back. However, Qin Yu's sword was repelled by a strong shield. The divine wall. That faint golden light must be the divine wall. Qin Yu's hand went numb. He instinctively knew who this person was. He didn't care about the rain on the ground. He knelt down and said, "Sect leader Han Yuan, please save me, Qin Yu." The old man slowly turned around. His bamboo hat instantly shattered. He smiled and said, "Second Prince, you are the future emperor. How can you kneel to an old man like me? Quickly get up." Qin Yu slowly got up. "Sect leader, what should I do now? His Highness is about to be killed." "Ah, why?" Qin Yu was shocked. "You were defeated at Jianghu Pass. Once you return to Sweet Spring Palace, don't tell me the Emperor won't put the crime of being greedy for grandiose achievements and underestimating the enemy on your head? Your Second Highness, you should know very well that your elder brother Qin Qian has always wanted to get rid of you, and your father has long been blinded by wine and women. He only wants to live a peaceful life and has never thought of attacking. You have always advocated going to war, and your father is very afraid that you will be able to outdo him." Qin Yu's heart was in a mess. Then what should I do? A man walks the world with a clear conscience. Han Wen smiled and said, "You should know better than me which one is more important, the Emperor's hegemony or two useless relatives. Your Highness, what you lack is nothing more than an encouragement and an opportunity. If you don't act decisively, you'll end up in trouble. How could someone as intelligent as your Highness not understand this? But they are my brother and father after all. An empire is built with blood. If Second Prince can't even overcome this, then you don't deserve to be the future emperor of the Celestial Empire." This, Qin Yu's eyes flickered. He pondered for half a minute and said, "Father has 3 experts by his side. Huang Tao and Zhou Yan are both sacred martial kings. One is in the 52nd Grotto Heaven stage, the other is in the 49th Grotto Heaven stage. There is also Zhang Lu, a sacred martial venerable with the 28th Grotto Heaven stage. Not only are they God State experts, but they are also dragon riders. With them around, I'm afraid it will be difficult to succeed." Han Yuan smiled, "I will kill a mere sacred martial king for Second Prince. The only thing I need Second Prince to do is to make a decision." "Fine." Qin Yu clenched his fists and a cold light shot out from his eyes. He said, "When we return to Sweet Spring Palace tonight, I'll see if Father will punish me. If Father does, then you're heartless and I'm unjust. If Father doesn't punish me, then I'll have to think about it at length. Lord Han Yuan, if you help me, the position of Commander-in-Chief of the Celestial Empire will be yours." "I don't care about that." Han Yuan stroked his beard and smiled. "I only hope that after you unify the Celestial Pole continent, you will only worship my Celestial Extremity sect. That will be enough." "No problem." As night fell, the scattered cavalrymen returned to the Palace of Sweet Spring. Everyone was listless, but if one were to look carefully, they would discover that there was a white-bearded old man among the group of guards. However, his face was hidden in the iron helmet, so it was difficult to discover him without looking carefully. "His Second Highness is back." Amidst the shouts of the attendants, Qin Yu led the 3 guards into the palace hall. As usual, the hall was filled with songs and dances. However, when the dancers saw Qin Yu and the others' miserable appearances of having thrown away their helmets and armor and being bathed in blood, all of them tactfully retreated. Otherwise they would inevitably be reprimanded by Qin Yu again. "Yo, second brother is back." Qin Hai, who was holding a beauty in his arms, said with a smile, "Second brother, what happened to you? Could it be that His Second Highness, who is known as the hope of the Celestial Empire's military, was defeated in the attack on Jianghu Pass?" He had probably received the news long ago. Qin Yu's face was ashen. He knelt on one knee and said, "Father, I was defeated. The attack on Jianghu Pass was unsuccessful, and the main force of the enemy attacked our camp at night. We suffered a great defeat. Of the 5,000 prefectural soldiers, only less than 100 are left." "What?" Qin Hai was taken aback. "Qin Yu, my son, Imperial Father told you long ago not to underestimate the enemy, but you didn't listen. If it weren't for your arrogance, how could you have suffered such a defeat? You must be tired. Go back to your quarters and rest." "Father." Qin Hai's eyes were sharp. Those 5,000 prefectural soldiers are also soldiers of the Celestial Empire. How can we not punish Qin Yu for his defeat because of his carelessness? But he is still my son, Qin Hai said. A country has its laws and a family has its rules. Father, please reconsider. Very well. Qin Hai waved his hand. Men, send second Prince Qin Yu to Wind Forest Garden to reflect on his mistakes for 3 days. His salary will be cut for half a year, and he will not be allowed to command any troops for the next 3 years. Qin Yu knelt on the ground, his eyes filled with reluctance. Qin Hai's decision would probably cause chaos in the empire. Late at night, a pillar of fire rose into the sky in the bedroom. Both Emperor Qin Hai and Crown Prince Qin Qian of the Celestial Empire had been assassinated. A day later, more than 100 civil and military officials, led by Dongqing Wang and other generals, crowned Qin Yu, the legitimate heir of the empire, to the throne. Thus, the Celestial Empire opened a new chapter of militarism. Chapter 882. On the 28th of May, the second prince of the Celestial Empire, Qin Yu, returned to the imperial capital, Laohan City, to hold his ascension ceremony, but secretly ordered the commanders of the Heaven's End Army and the Earth's End Army to immediately attack the borders of the Blackstone Empire. The flames of war rose everywhere, and the territories of the Celestial Empire were instantly engulfed by the flames of war. The Emperor Shi Yuan randomly sent the Gale Regiment to the borders to fight, while Feng Yang arrived at the borders 2 days later, and engaged in a bloody battle with the Heaven's End Army and the Earth's End Army. Corpses littered the ground and blood flowed like rivers. The war between the Celestial Empire and the Blackstone Empire also shocked the Tianji Empire in the far north. Bei Ming Yuan immediately gave the order to mobilize all the troops within the borders to defend, at the same time waiting for an opportunity to strike. As soon as there was an opportunity, they would launch a lightning-fast strike. The relationship between the three empires became even more complicated and confusing. In the 6th month, the scorching hot summer arrived, and even the imperial soldiers guarding the steel walls were no longer wearing their armor. What was rare was that the Luo River estuary had not been in battle for over a month, and the rare peace allowed everyone to feel a trace of peace. Even behind the steel walls, groups of merchants began to gather. The army required a large amount of resources, and just relying on the transportation from the Ministry of Revenue was far from enough. In truth, the majority of the supplies were purchased from the local merchants, and this was something that Lin Muyu had tacitly agreed to. 20 li south of the Luo River estuary, on a verdant mountain range, rock goats were hopping about, while a scarlet python was entrenched on a huge tree, watching its prey from afar, while wild rabbits were searching for food by the river. Birds were chirping, and everything seemed so peaceful. A handsome young man sat cross-legged on a rock with his eyes closed tightly. He seemed to have fused with everything in the surroundings, and every strand of his aura rose and fell with the wind. His body was suffused with a faint glow like a pearl, but it didn't conflict with everything in the surroundings. It was even to the extent that the pythons, rock goats, and other living beings nearby didn't notice his existence at all. The formless elephant art's power came from all living things, and this was the unique aspect of Lin Muyu's training. It was rare for the Luo River estuary stronghold to be peaceful for a period of time, and this period of time was also a precious time for Lin Muyu to focus on training and seeking a breakthrough. His palms were placed on his legs, and the 2 demon spirit stones in his palms were only remnants, and most of the spiritual energy had been refined. Ever since he started training the formless elephant art, Lin Muyu's speed of absorbing spiritual energy had increased by leaps and bounds. The formless elephant art consumed a large amount of divine energy, and every time he used it, it felt like his body was emptied of energy. This made Lin Muyu refine some low-grade godheads and demon spirit stones more frequently, and his strength had also increased by leaps and bounds. This kind of growth was far beyond Lin Muyu's expectations. Within the peaceful aura, strands of energy spread out, and every breath carried a pulse of energy, a total of 36 pulses. Ever since he stepped into the God King realm, Lin Muyu's cultivation had increased by leaps and bounds, and the speed of his cultivation was far beyond his expectations. In less than a month, he had already broken through to the 6th stage of the Grotto Heaven realm, and the price was 2 broken godheads, and as many as 50 demon venerables and 4th-grade demon spirit stones. He slowly opened his eyes, and the formless elephant art's power pulsed in his body, as if it was connected to everything around him. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile faintly. It seemed like the formless elephant art had also made a breakthrough. Embracing all phenomena of the world, that was the strongest realm of this law. He raised his palm gently and pointed it straight at the mountain in the distance. He silently chanted, "Everything in the world, listen to my command." Buzz buzz. Amidst the faint buzzing sound, the power in his palm suddenly became thick, as if he was holding the weight of a mountain in his hand. Moreover, this was not Lin Muyu's own strength, but borrowed. That's right, the second stage of the formless elephant art's strength, borrowing power. Borrowing the power of the mountain, the power that could be unleashed was far beyond what Xiangdibai could compare with. The power in his palm became thicker and thicker, to the point that Lin Muyu could barely hold it. The elephant tower in his high spun rapidly, and produced elephant wheels one after another. When there were 10 elephant wheels, all the power gathered in his palm. The second stage of the formless elephant art's strength, 10 elephants punishing the heavens. Borrowing power mountain. Lin Muyu's palm slowly sank down, and suddenly with a boom, the forest within 100 meters in front of her completely caved in, as if it was being crushed by a huge mountain. The towering trees turned into powder and the river flowed. With a boom, a shockwave spread out to both sides, and in the blink of an eye, the entire forest was razed to the ground. Lin Muyu was silent, but his heart was in turmoil. What a strong formless elephant art, as expected of the absolute art created by God Emperor Fuxi of the sky beyond heaven. In terms of lethality, the 7 luminaries and the formless elephant art were not too far apart, but the 7 luminaries was too overbearing, while the formless elephant art was calm and unruffled. Once it was unleashed, the destructive power was even greater than the 7 luminaries. This was like the characteristics of the 2 god emperors. The 7 luminaries' demon emperor was forthright and distinguished between kindness and hatred, while Fuxi cared about all things and had compassion for the common people. But no matter how much they changed, their understanding of power was actually the same. Unknowingly, Lin Muyu had a new understanding of divine power. This kind of understanding was probably something that most gods would never be able to comprehend in their entire lives. This was the difference between realms. After obtaining the sovereign personality, Lin Muyu's talent and potential had been greatly improved. In the eyes of the common people, he was a genius among geniuses. He was far from the level of the 4 luminaries heroes of Lanyan. However, the common people still remembered him as the 4 luminaries of Lanyan, because they were the orthodox and were personally conferred by Emperor Qingjin. The common people were too far away from gods, and almost no one had seen a real god. However, the emperor could be known from the prefectures and other places. The common people had the emperor in their hearts, but they might not necessarily have a god. At the foot of the mountain, a row of fine horses galloped over. It was the elite cavalry of the Longdan army camp led by Wei Chou, Baiyin and the others. "Your Highness." Looking at the forest that had been razed to the ground, Wei Chou could not help but gasp in amazement. He galloped forward and asked, "Your Highness, are you all right?" "I'm fine." Lin Muyu shook her head and asked, "What's the matter?" "There's one thing." Wei Chou hung the bow back on the side of the warhorse and said, "Our Warhawk scouts found many warships of the Qinji Empire on the East Sea. They seem to be mobilizing their troops. If I'm not wrong, the Baiming Huan has already mobilized their warships to launch an attack from the sea since they couldn't break through our Luo River estuary fortress. After the Blue Wind Sea battle, the Qinji Empire doesn't have many warships left. How many people can they mobilize? I don't know, but they have at least 500 warships left. I think they can mobilize 100,000 people to attack quickly. We must be on guard." "Yes, send more Warhawk scouts to investigate. Once their main force really boards the ships, we will also move together and fight them on the shore." "Yes." "How's the cavalry training going?" "Not bad." Wei Chou touched his nose. "What do you mean, not bad? How many do you have?" Lin Muyu was speechless. Wei Chou smiled and said, 8,000. "I've scrounged up everything I could and almost broke the doorsteps of the Ministry of Revenue, the Holy Temple, and the Ministry of War. Finally, I got 6,000 warhorses. Including the 2,000 that your Highness brought back, we have exactly 8,000. This is all we have. Together we can form a cavalry battalion. There are only 6,000 warhorses in the entire Lingdong province." Lin Muyu frowned and said, "Yes, your Highness, you may not know this, but Lingdong is the most barren province to begin with. Moreover, we've been at war for many years and the people are weary and the treasury is empty. These 6,000 warhorses were gathered from all over the place. I even asked for the warhorses used by the Minister of War to pull the carriage. Zhen Yifan also contributed 100 warhorses from his personal guards. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be able to gather 6,000. Lin Muyu was slightly stunned and said, Lord Fan really handed over the mounts of his personal guard. Yes. I really didn't expect that Zheng Yifan would be so indecisive back then. What made him become such a loyal official? Haha, it's actually very simple. Wei Chou touched his nose and said, but I said that your highness can't blame me. Say it. Yes. Wei Chou pondered for a moment and said, when the Radiant King Qingjin was still alive, the empire only had Jin Yifan, Chu and a few other sacred domains. At that time, Zheng Yifan could be said to be second only to the Radiant King. But later on, the four heroes of Lan Yan appeared. Your Highness, Prince Xin, Feng Jixing, Princess Shi, and the others' cultivation kept breaking through and surpassed Duke Fan. Now, Duke Fan can't even be ranked in the top 5 in the empire with his strength. It's because his strength isn't up to par. When a person's strength is far from his expectations, he can only restrain himself and accept reality. If Zheng Yifan dies in battle now, he can still leave behind a good name and maintain his ranking in the Lingyun Pavilion. Otherwise, as he said this, Wei Chou smiled faintly and said, everyone is playing a game and gambling on whether the empire can hold on and defeat the Tianji Empire and the Blackstone Empire. If they can, we will be the heroes of the Shattered Cauldron realm in the future. We will be famous generals with unparalleled merits. This is because the current situation in the Shattered Cauldron realm has never been seen in 10,000 years. What do you think, Your Highness? Lin Muyu glanced at him and jumped down from the huge rock. She said, you're really good at judging people now. You're getting better at being an official. Haha, I'm completely reliant on Your Highness's guidance. Cut the crap. Is there any other news? Yes, there's another piece of good news. The Celestial Empire has declared war on the Blackstone Empire. Both sides have already started fighting at the border. This was news from 3 days ago. Has the Celestial Empire finally made a move? Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. It seems that Qinyu has already ascended to the throne. Your Highness is wise. Qinyu is indeed the ruler of the Celestial Empire now. That's good, that's good. With Qinyu holding back part of the main forces of the Tianji Empire and the Blackstone Empire in the east, we'll have enough time to breathe here. Yes. Is there any news about Shaoxi? Not yet. No news is a good thing. This means that the Seven Seas province hasn't started fighting yet. Yes. Chapter 883. In the western part of the Yunling Mountains, 3/4 of the Yunzhong province was surrounded by clouds and mist. The Yunling Mountains were much steeper and more rugged than the Qinling Mountains. The Qinling Mountains might be able to deceive people by crossing the mountains, but it was impossible in the Yunling Mountains. It was thousands of meters above sea level and it snowed all year round. Avalanches and storms were common occurrences. Not to mention human soldiers, even gods were not willing to face such a severe natural power. Tongyun Pass, a pass that stretched for 5 kilometers, was located between 2 mountains of the Yunling Mountains. It was also the largest passage between the Seven Seas province and the Yunzhong province. But after the war, the gate of Tongyun Pass had been closed, and it refused to let businessmen and refugees pass through. However, the Yunzhong province had fallen, and countless people who had lost their homes still gathered in the fertile land in the east of Tongyun Pass. Every day people died of hunger and no one buried their bodies. The plague had begun to spread. On the gate, Tang Xiaoxi, dressed in a red dress, looked at the refugee camp in the east from a distance and said, "Can we really not come up with a plan?" Next to her, Qin Xiaoli cupped his hands and said, "Princess, we really can't open the gate. No one knows whether there are soldiers of the Tianji Empire among the refugees. Once they sneak in and open the gate, Tongyun Pass will be in danger. Behind Tongyun Pass are the 40 million people of the Empire of the Seven Seas province." Tang Xiaoxi was silent. After a while, she raised her head, and her bright eyes were particularly cold. "In the afternoon, send my cavalry out of the pass to bring food and water to comfort the people. After all, they are the people of the Empire. If we ignore their lives for the sake of the war, what can we do even if we win the war? But Princess, don't say it. If Mu and Feng Jixing were here, they would do the same." Qin Xiaoli was a little speechless. As a professional soldier, he knew what to do and what not to do. At this moment, Tang Xiaoxi's actions were not in line with the art of war, but they were in line with the way of a king. Therefore, Qin Xiaoli was a little lost and did not know what to do. Ouyang Yen pursed her red lips and said, "There's a plague outside the city called Lycia. Once infected, one's entire body will fester and die, and there's no cure at all. 3 out of 10 commoners outside the city are infected with this plague. Princess Shi, are you sure you want to bring them into the city? But big sister Chu Yao isn't here. Otherwise she would definitely have a way to cure this plague. Tang Xiaoxi frowned. But I can't just watch them die outside the city. Ouyang, do you have any good ideas? Ouyang Yin was taken aback. Use my method? Yes. That's easy. Just burn them down and everything will be over. Pretend I didn't ask. In the afternoon, the city gates of Tongyun Pass opened. Tang Xiaoxi led 100 cavalrymen out of the city, followed by a transport team that brought supplies from the Seven Seas province into the forest. When this princess appeared in the crowd, the commoners were all dumbfounded. Many of them were covered in ulcers and pus flowed from their bodies, but they didn't expect to see the nobility of the empire before they died. It's Princess Shi. It's Princess Shi. She's here to bring us food. The empire hasn't given up on us. No one knew who shouted, but everyone knelt down and shouted, "Long live Princess Shi! Long live Princess Shi!" Tang Xiaoxi led her horse and slowly passed through the crowd. Looking at the faces that yearned to live, she felt extremely uncomfortable. The war brought so much pain to the people, but it wasn't something she could control. It would be great if this war could end earlier. It was also at this moment that people felt that Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, Wei Chou, and the other soldiers who fought for the empire were adorable and worthy of respect. Everyone, please be quiet. Tang Xiaoxi's voice was very clear, and her voice contained the power of laws and spread very far. The crowd quickly quietened down. Tang Xiaoxi looked at the people around her and said, "The empire will never abandon you, and the Qin family will never abandon you. However, the enemy is very strong and we still need time. Please believe in me, Tang Xiaoxi. The empire will definitely win this war. I've brought food and water for everyone, so please don't fight for it." Everyone cheered in unison. However, at this moment an old man with a festering left leg looked at Tang Xiaoxi blankly and said, "Princess Shi, does this mean that the empire doesn't intend to open Tongyun Pass and let us go to the Seven Seas province?" Tang Xiaoxi was a little sad and said, "The plague is wreaking havoc outside the city. Once everyone enters Tongyun Pass, the plague will wreak havoc inside the pass, and our 150,000 elite soldiers will face annihilation. However, don't worry, I'll send people to set up tents outside the pass and provide food and water every day." What did you say? Are you telling us to wait for death here? A burly man with festering face roared angrily, "We are the people of the empire, why can't we enter Tongyun Pass? You useless nobles only know how to enjoy yourselves in a good place, and you don't care about the lives of our people at all." The people fell into a desperate situation and began to curse. "Scram, put away your hypocritical face. The Qin family is all trash and you're just a dog of the Qin family. You're even more useless. Hypocritical empire, die early." Tang Xiaoxi turned around, still leading her warhorse, and walked in the direction of Tongyun Pass. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She had never suffered such humiliation before. Around her, the refugees even picked up stones and threw them at her, but they were all bounced off by the power of the divine wall. Ouyang Yin followed behind Tang Xiaoxi without saying a word. After walking for a while, Ouyang Yin said, "Let's follow my method and burn them down." No. Tang Xiaoxi looked at the weeds under the horse's hooves and cried loudly, "I represent the royal family of the Qin Empire. They can let me down, but I can't let them down. Mu and Xiaoyin have already suffered so much. How can I throw a tantrum here? She was sobbing. Everyone understood the reason, but who could guarantee that they would be able to bear it if they really reached the point of being deserted by their own people? Ouyang Yin pursed her red lips and said, "No wonder Qin Han chose to ascend without hesitation. The matters of the mortal world are indeed as muddy as a pool of muddy water. Unfortunately, Lin Muyu and you are too attached to promises and responsibilities. Otherwise, you can directly ascend to the Eastern Heaven Realm. With the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor protecting you, you can completely dominate the Eastern Heaven Realm." "Don't say any more, Ouyang." Tang Xiaoxi bit her red lips and said, "Leave the food and water behind. All the guards who go out of the city with us must be isolated for observation. They can only stop the isolation if there is no illness within 10 days. You and I, the same. Don't worry, we are gods. This kind of plague in the mortal world can't infect our bodies at all. Are we really that powerful? Of course. Then why do I feel that I have suffered so much?" Tang Xiaoxi's eyes were red. Ouyang Yin looked at her with some heartache. "Because you are a good person. Kind people are bullied by others. Human nature is like this, selfish and greedy. You always think for others, but others may not do the same. Follow my temper and burn these ungrateful, stupid and ignorant people. We are gods and we are qualified to release them from purgatory." "No need." Tang Xiaoxi shook her head. The Qin family needs the hearts of the people and the world to save the dynasty of the Great Qin Empire. There are some things I can't do. Go back. Okay. On the city wall, Qin Xiaoli looked at everything from afar and didn't say a word. After a while, she said to the two deputies behind her, I will help Princess Xi with the things she can't do. Go and make preparations. We will take action after midnight. Yes, Lord Commander. Night fell. When night fell, the city gates opened and a group of 7 Sea Cities elite cavalry galloped out. They held torches in their hands and the horses behind them had heavy sacks strapped to their backs. Each sack was filled with Jinin coins. Qin Xiaoli held her spear and galloped at the front. She charged into the refugee camp and started to scatter gold coins into the crowd. At the same time she shouted, Take the money and go to Twilight Rain City to find a way out. Don't stay here. Take the money and you can live. If you continue to stay here, you can only wait for death. The crowd was in a mess and the people fought for the gold coins. Qin Xiaoli brought a total of nearly 1,000 cavalrymen out of the city. Everyone's mouth and nose were covered with cloth, and they scattered gold coins everywhere. When every commoner received a lot of gold coins, Qin Xiaoli immediately raised her spear and shouted, Go! Everyone leave. Kill those who don't leave. Many people in the crowd of refugees objected. Dang, dang, dang! Their swords were unsheathed and the cavalry soldiers swiftly cut down dozens of stubborn people. Fresh blood was still dripping from the blades, and the refugees were all stunned. They had never thought that Qin Xiaoli would actually dare to make a move. Scram! If you don't scram now, you will all die under my blade. Qin Xiaoli was decisive. She raised her spear and had a bit of Feng Jixing's demeanor. The cavalry drove the people out of the refugee camp and headed straight for Twilight Rain City. The next morning, Tang Xiaoxi was furious when she received the news of the chaos outside the city last night. In the general's residence, Qin Xiaoli was already tied up and kneeling in the hall with the two deputies. What is going on? Tang Xiaoxi was so angry that her face turned red. Qin Xiaoli, how dare you use weapons against the people? Do you still have me in your eyes? Yes. Qin Xiaoli knelt on the ground and said with red eyes, Princess Xi I Qin Xiaoli was originally a general of 7 Seas City. I was promoted by Prince Xian after my father died. I Qin Xiaoli am a general of the Tang clan. I'm not willing to see Princess Xi suffer such humiliation. I've already chased away the bunch of ingrates outside the city, but I've given them gold horn coins so that they won't starve to death on the road. Moreover, if they bring the plague to Twilight Rain City, they will also spread it to the hundreds of thousands of Longji Corps and wolf soldiers in Twilight Rain City. Why shouldn't we do it? What about the millions of people in Twilight Rain City? Tang Xiaoxi said indifferently, who will care about their lives? Qin Xiaoli raised her head, her proud face full of smiles. There's no such thing as having the best of both worlds. Wanting to defeat the enemy and protect the people at the same time, there hasn't been such a thing since ancient times. Princess Xi, behead me and use my head as a sacrifice to those who died in vain. Use my blood to wash away the stain I brought to the Qin clan. You really have the guts to say that. Tang Xiaoxi slammed the table. Drag her out and behead her. Everyone was shocked and trembled in fear, not daring to speak. Ouyang Yan's lips curled up. You generals are all fools. Don't you know how to plead for mercy? The group of generals hurriedly knelt together and pleaded for mercy. On account of so many people pleading for mercy, I'll spare your life. Tang Xiaoxi didn't want to kill Qin Xiaoli. Otherwise, who would be guarding the city and leading the troops? Her gaze turned cold and she said indifferently, demote her by 1 rank, forfeit her salary for half a year, and put her in confinement for a day. Yes. Qin Xiaoli's face was full of smiles as if she had been promoted by 3 ranks. Thank you, Princess Xi, for sparing my lowly life. Chapter 884. There was no such thing as an impenetrable wall in the world. The news of Lingnan finally reached the eastern capital, Dongshuang City. The entire eastern capital was shaken. No one would have thought that even a famous general like Su Jiantao had surrendered to someone else. From the messenger's mouth, they could even faintly feel that Su Jiantao had surrendered. In Lingxi's palace, the officials were discussing. Everyone had already arrived before the morning court started. Without a doubt, the matter of Lingnan would be the first major event of today's court. Lin Muyu, who had hurried back to Dongshuang City the day before, had already put on Wang Ju's armor and entered the palace side by side with Qin Yan. In the days when Feng Jixing wasn't here, only the two of them had the final say. Big brother, is the news true? Qin Yin and Lin Muyu stood side by side in front of the throne and asked worriedly. Yes, it's most likely not fake. Lin Muyu nodded and looked at the officials. She found that Su Yu, Zhen Yifan, Zhen Fang, and the others all had anxious expressions. Everyone knew that the military force of Lingnan was already one of the main forces of the empire. Xiang Yu's 70,000 men and Su Jintao's 50,000 made up a total of 120,000 elites. They were the Qin Empire's reliance against the Blackstone Empire. If these 120,000 men and horses all surrendered to someone else, then Lingnan had already changed its banner. The court meeting begins. The eunuch announced loudly. Outside the palace, a group of imperial guards guarded all the entrances and exits. Their swords and armor were bright and glowed faintly under the morning light. The Qin Empire had lasted for tens of thousands of years. No one knew how long this light could shine. Almost everyone in the world felt that the Qin Empire's fate had come to an end. However, Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, Tang Xiaoxi, and the others were still working hard. They firmly believed that a miracle would happen. It had always been so. Bring the messenger. Lin Muyu waved her hand and said indifferently. Yes. Wei Chou cupped his fists and signaled with his eyes. 2 soldiers from the Longdan army camp brought in a man in the Empire's military uniform. He had escaped from Lingnan, which was why he had released the news. What's your name? Lin Muyu asked without anger. This lowly one's name is Fan and I. His entire body trembled. Which department are you from? This lowly one originally belonged to the 3rd Battalion of the Military Governor's Office of Cangnan Province. I followed Lord Cangnan Marquis Su Jiantao on an expedition to Lingnan and was then assigned to the 11th Battalion of Combat. 6 days ago, this lowly one was still in Dragon-Slaying Pass. Because I was punished for fighting with others, I stole a horse. Along the way, I earned gold and silver to cross the Qinling Mountains and came to Winterfrost City to look for your highness. Lin Muyu looked at him calmly. Her clear eyes seemed to be able to see through Fan and I. She said, I won't pursue the matter of you defying military law for now. Tell me what happened in Lingnan. Yes, your highness. Fan and I knelt on the ground again, raised his head and said, the Blackstone Empire marched straight into Lingnan and won every battle. Later on, the Marquis crushed their edge. After that, the Marquis gathered his troops in Dragon-Slaying Pass. It was also at that time that we learned that the Celestial Pole Continent's Battle Angel Corps was split into 2. They seemed to have split up. Dora was one faction while Sheen was the other. Sheen led 6 Battle Angels and a group of troops using strange weapons to infiltrate Lingnan. Later on, for some reason, Duke Yu surrendered to Sheen. Furthermore, this lowly one heard that Sheen's army met Marshal Sheen of Iha country. Later on, the Marquis offered Dragon-Slaying Pass and allowed Sheen's men to settle in. Have you seen Sheen? No. Fan and I shook his head and said, but this subordinate saw with my own eyes that Sheen's men replaced ours. Although the Empire's purple Een flower flag is still fluttering in Dragon-Slaying Pass, Sheen's Battle Angel Corps' war flag is also fluttering. What is Su Jiantao doing? Lin Muyu said, slightly angered. In the crowd, a middle-aged general cupped his fists and said, Your Highness, Su Jintao's troops have not reported any news to the eastern capital for nearly 10 days. Furthermore, the Battle Eagle scouts we sent have not returned. There is no news at all. This general believes that Su Jintao's actions are tantamount to treason. The Battle Angels are people of the Celestial Pole Continent. Giving Dragon-Slaying Pass, the throat of Lingnan Province, to the people of the Celestial Pole Continent, is tantamount to treason. Another old minister also nodded. Your Highness, this subordinate concurs. Marquis Golden Worm and General Wang Qiu, please calm down. This matter has not reached the point where it is certain. No matter what, the Empire's war flag is still fluttering in Dragon-Slaying Pass and Divine Heaven Pass. I believe that Su Jiantao and Xiang Yu must have some hidden troubles that are difficult to speak of. Lin Muyu gritted her teeth and asked with a cold face, Duke Fan, what do you think? Zheng Yifan kept a low profile and only smiled. Before Su Jiantao and Xiang Yu see us, it is obviously impossible to make a conclusion based on the words of a small pawn. After all, a duke and a marquis are both powerful ministers of the empire who hold heavy military power. We cannot easily convict them. This old minister suggests that we send a trusted aide of your highness to Lingnan to investigate. This is a good idea. Lin Muyu looked disdainfully and asked, who is willing to go? Among the generals, Wei Chou was the first to stand out. I'll go. No. Lin Muyu shook her head. Wei Chou, you are more familiar with the defense of Luo River Estuary Fortress and Winterfrost City than me. We need you, Duke Wei. If you can't go, who else is willing to go? Situ Sin stepped out of the ranks. This subordinate is willing to go. You can't either. Why? Situ Sin was startled. Your Highness, you don't trust this general? No, General Sen, you are too hot-tempered. If there is any mistake in this matter, I am afraid it will lead to unnecessary trouble. After all, we do not know what that Shin's attitude is at the moment. So, Feng Shi, don't hide. You will go to Dragon Slaying Pass on my behalf. Feng Shi frowned. Yes, Your Highness. What, you are not willing? Yes. Feng Shi raised his head and said, Your Highness also knows that Baiming Huan is mobilizing troops to attack Winter Ridge Province. The next battle will decide the fate of Eastern Capital. This subordinate wants to stay here and make a contribution. You want to make a contribution? Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. That is easy. As long as your diplomatic mission to Dragon Slaying Pass goes smoothly and you can come back alive, I will immediately promote you by 1 rank. You will be in charge of a 20,000-man army. How about it? Really? Of course. Thank you, Your Highness. Feng Shi knelt down on one knee. Wait a moment. Su'er looked at the crowd with her bright eyes and smiled. General Feng Shi is a soldier after all. He is firm and not soft. How about sending another woman to go with him? A woman? Qin Yin was startled. At this time, the first person in the line of female court officials stood up. It was a graceful woman. She was the first female court official by Qin Yin's side, Shangguan Jingyue. In the blink of an eye, several years had passed and Shangguan Jingyue had matured even more. That kind of steady and virtuous charm could be seen at a glance. She respectfully said, Your Highness, let me go with Sir Feng Shi. Back then, Jingyue had also represented Her Highness on a diplomatic mission to Bailing City. This time, going to Dragon Slaying Pass to see our own people, I think. Jingyue is more suitable than anyone else. Shangguan Jingyue, aren't you worried that Su Jiantao will really rebel? Lin Muyu smiled and asked. Shangguan Jingyue smiled as well. Your Highness, Yu's eyes are like torches. Over the years, many generals of the Empire have betrayed or fled, but none of Your Highness's men have betrayed you. So, Shangguan Jingyue firmly believes that Lord Su Jiantao isn't that kind of person. If he is, then he wouldn't dare to fight the 200,000-strong army of the Darkstone Empire commanded by Bailey Qin. Good, you are indeed courageous and insightful. Lin Muyu smiled with satisfaction. However, you cannot bring too many people. After all, the Eastern Capital also needs manpower, so I will give you 200 and 100 cavalry guards. When you arrive at the Dragon Slaying Pass, you need to investigate the truth of the matter. Also, bring an Empire's Golden Star Medal. If Su Jiantao did not commit treason, then bestow him with a Golden Star Medal as a reward. That is what he deserves. Yes. In the afternoon, the diplomatic team left Winterfrost City. The development of the situation was becoming more and more bizarre, and Lin Muyu was already completely unable to guess what was going on. However, he could not personally go to the southern ridges. After all, a battle could break out at the mouth of the Luo River at any time. Once he left, it was likely that it would be difficult for the 4 absolutes of White Leaves and Chu Chu to resist the numerous God Realm experts of the Tianji Empire. When it was close to evening, Wei Chou directly entered Lingxi Palace and said in a low voice, 5 merchant ships from the Blackstone Empire have docked at the Blue Wind Harbor. They claim to be Your Highness's people, and they have delivered the things Your Highness needs. Did they say who sent them? They said it was Your Highness's younger sister. Lin Muyu's heart thumped. It was Si Kongyao, that's great. He immediately sat up from his desk and said, Wei Chou, fly with me to the Blue Wind Harbor and transport the goods back overnight. We cannot let them be robbed by the pirates of the Blackstone Empire. Yes. When night fell, 2 figures floated down from the sky. They were precisely Lin Muyu and Wei Chou. After the Blue Wind Sea battle, the Imperial Navy was almost completely annihilated. However, the Blue Wind Harbor was close to the mainland, so it was still in the hands of the Empire. However, there were not many soldiers stationed here, only a few thousand. Greetings, Your Highness. Greetings, Duke Wei. A group of Imperial soldiers knelt down one after another. Rise, bring me to see the goods. Yes. Inside the harbor, 5 large ships were currently unloading goods. When Lin Muyu and Wei Chou approached, a fat merchant walked forward with a face full of smiles. He cupped his fists and said, This lowly one Zhuge Heng greets Your Highness you. You were sent by Yao? Yes, this lowly one was originally one of the secret merchants of the Celestial Emptiness sect. Eldest Miss Si Kongyao and leader Lu Bai spent a long time to gather these 5 ships' goods. Along the way, in order to open up the sea passage, they spent no less than 100,000 gold coins. Is that so? Lin Muyu was slightly delighted. What's inside? Zhuge Heng smiled and said, 4 of the ships are fully loaded with demon heart stones, enough to forge 500,000 demon heart arrows. The other ship is loaded with gold and silver that Bai Zhe mercenaries plundered from the treasury of the Blackstone Empire, as well as some high-grade demon spirit stones that your highness needs. Among them, eldest Miss Si Kongyao personally went to Celestial Emptiness City and asked for 7 Demon King-level demon spirit stones from Si Kongming. Before she left, she said that it was specially prepared for you, and others cannot use it without permission. Ah! Lin Muyu was stunned. Wei Chou secretly laughed at the side. Chapter 885. Did Yao really say that? Yes. Zhuge Heng nodded his head. Your highness might not know this, but the Demon King level demon spirit stones are simply too precious. Even the strongest sect in the continent, the Tianji sect, only has 11 Demon King level demon spirit stones. This time Big Miss asked for 8 in one go, saying that it was for her own cultivation. In reality she only kept 1 for herself and sent the rest to your highness. Yao is too considerate. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. Zhuge Heng also smiled. With your highness use words, eldest young Miss' painstaking efforts were not wasted. This subordinate will tell her the truth. In addition, is there anything else your highness wants me to tell eldest young Miss? How many soldiers does the Bai Zhe mercenary team have? 100,000 people. Miss Si Kongyao borrowed 20 captaincy from General Zhang Cheng to help train the soldiers. Currently the Bai Zhe mercenary team's combat power is quite high. They can still borrow the generals? Of course, General Zhang Cheng is Miss Shang Qian's maternal grandfather. Miss Shang Qian personally asked for it, so there's no reason not to borrow them in the future. Immediately return these generals after using them, don't keep them, Lin Muyu said. Understood. Zhuge Heng was also an old fox. He smiled. The Bai Zhe mercenary team will fight with Zhang Cheng's army sooner or later, so the enemy's people naturally can't be kept. Ah, that's right. Someone transport the goods and return to Winter Frost City overnight. Yes. Traveling through the night, they returned to Winter Frost City at noon the next day. Lin Muyu didn't sleep and personally sent the 20 carts of demonic heart stones to the weapons department to find Qin Xiling. When Qin Xiling saw so many demon heart stones, it was as if he had obtained a treasure. He was so happy that he almost danced with joy. Your Highness, where did you get so many demon heart stones? Great. Great. I have a secret channel, Xiling doesn't need to worry about it. Alright, what have you been doing these days? Your Highness, follow me and you will know. Oh. Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, Situ Sen and Situ Shui looked at each other and smiled. Then they followed Qin Xiling into the large drill ground in the backyard of the Department of Ordnance. Clanking sounds came from afar. No one knew what was being forged. However, this was the secret base of the Qin Empire. Lin Muyu knew that the development of the Department of Ordnance was related to the fate of the entire Qin Empire. After walking for a short distance, they arrived at the archery testing base. A group of weapons division employees were busy loading arrows and then shooting at the rocks in front of them. Dang dang dang. The arrows sank into the rocks one after another, leaving only the feathers outside. That's the hardest rock in the Winter Ridge province. It's called Coxcomb Rock. Qin Xiling smiled and said, I've improved the torsion device of the arrow box, greatly increasing the shooting speed. Moreover, these arrows are tempered with the dual elements of demonic heart stone and white diamond. The lethality is multiplied. General Sin should also know the principle of shooting, right? Sidu Sin nodded. I know a little about the Dragon Imperial Spiral. That's right. Qin Xiling said, although my cultivation is low, I also know that the Dragon Imperial Spiral is a kind of energy field similar to a whirlwind. The power of the Dragon Imperial Spiral is similar to a willow twig rotating with an axis. Its speed is very fast, so it can rely on the centrifugal force on the outside and the dragon crystal to withstand the bombardment of the magic crystal cannon. It can even withstand multiple bombardments without any damage. Therefore, I focused on increasing the shooting speed of the arrows. As long as the arrows can enter the air flow of the spiral, it will be fine. Lin Muyu was silent. Your Highness, what do you think? Qin Xiling said. No. Lin Muyu shook her head. I fought with the Dragon Knights many times, and I know the speed of the Dragon Imperial Spiral. Even if you've improved the speed of the arrow box, it's still far from being able to keep up. The speed of the torsion device is almost destined to be unable to keep up with the Dragon Imperial Spiral. I can give you an exact number. Within the domain of the Dragon Imperial Spiral, there will be at least 15 swirls of air in a second. A normal arrow box probably won't be able to keep up with that speed in its lifetime. My God, so fast. Qin Xiling was stunned. His entire person became somewhat dispirited. The idea that he had painstakingly worked on for half a month had become nothing more than a bubble because of a single sentence from Lin Muyu. This blow was just too great. On the blueprint to the side, there was a hand-drawn drawing of the operating principle of the Dragon Imperial Spiral. The giant dragon and the dragon knight were very lifelike. Lin Muyu flipped through a few of the blueprints, and couldn't help but marvel at Qin Xiling's conscientiousness. Unfortunately, the development of technology was far from enough. Because of the lack of gunpowder, they lacked the most basic driving force. If the arrows could reach the flying speed of bullets, then they might be able to cause a certain amount of damage to the god-level dragon knight. Gunpowder, oh gunpowder. He couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Could it be that the heavens were torturing him? Unfortunately, the shattered cauldron realm didn't have sulfur, so it was naturally impossible to develop gunpowder. What's gunpowder? Qin Xiling was startled. It's nothing. Lin Muyu leaned on the table, thought for a moment and said, gunpowder is a product from another plane. Once it explodes, it will produce a huge shockwave, allowing the object to reach an unimaginable speed. If we had gunpowder, we could use the demon heart arrow to shoot it. We should be able to achieve an unexpected result. Propelled by the explosion of gunpowder, Qin Xiling blankly stood where he was. Suddenly, he slapped his thigh and laughed loudly. Thank you, Your Highness, for the reminder. Aha, this is great. Thank you, Your Highness, for the reminder. Lin Muyu looked at him with a stunned expression. Xiling, what are you doing? It's like you've won the lottery. Qin Xiling was extremely excited. His entire body trembled, and he stared at her with disheveled hair and a dirty face, saying, It was Your Highness who reminded me. The shockwave produced by the explosion can greatly increase speed. Perhaps it can break through the limit of speed and destroy the defense of the Dragon Imperial Spiral. So what? Could it be that Your Highness has forgotten the astonishing power produced by the explosion of the magic crystal cannon? What if we cast the arrowhead of the demon heart arrow on the outside of the magic crystal cannon, and then use the power produced by the explosion of the magic crystal cannon to send the demon heart arrow to destroy the Dragon Imperial Spiral? Really? Lin Muyu turned pale with fright. Yes, at least we can try. Qin Xiling laughed excitedly, and Lin Muyu also laughed along as if she had seen the light of dawn. At the side, Wei Chou poured cold water on them. Your Highness, Lord Xiling, don't forget how high the temperature produced by the explosion of the magic crystal cannon is. When we fought against the demons, their armor demons were wearing thick and heavy armor. A magic crystal cannon wouldn't even leave a scrap behind, let alone a small arrowhead like the demon heart arrow. Lin Muyu stilled. That's true. Qin Xiling hadn't calmed down from his excitement yet. His forehead was covered in sweat, and he said, It's fine, we just need to find some materials that can withstand high temperature to melt and refine the demon heart stone. But how can materials that can withstand the high temperature of the magic crystal cannon be melted and refined into a demon heart stone? Wei Chou said. Ah. Qin Xiling was stunned for a moment, and then he pointed at the door of the weapons division. Duke Wei, get out, you are not welcome here. Lin Muyu laughed loudly and patted Qin Xiling's shoulder. Don't rush, think slowly, there will be a way. Amen. Qin Xiling nodded and said, Your Highness, please be at ease. Xiling will definitely think of a suitable way to forge this godly weapon, and help our Qin family reverse the situation. Amen, we'll leave it to you, then we won't bother you anymore. Xiling, you must remember to eat on time, you've already lost weight. Have you used the few demon race beauties I gave you a few days ago as concubines? No, not yet. Late at night, Lin Muyu once again refined a Demon King level Demon Spirit Stone. Ever since he started cultivating the invisible elephant arts, his body was like a dry well, thirsting for the nourishment of spirit energy. Speaking of which, it was strange that his Qi seemed to have expanded a lot because of the invisible elephant arts. It was bottomless, and even if it was a Demon King level Demon Spirit Stone, he could still absorb at least 80% of its power. Hugh. With a light breath, the Demon Spirit Stone had already completely disappeared from his palm, and the turbid breath flew into the room through his mouth and nose. Having just finished refining, Lin Muyu could only feel his blood boiling, and this made him very excited. Could it be that he was about to break through again? This invisible elephant art simply made him feel as if he had the help of the gods. Even in the entire three realms, there wouldn't be many people with this kind of breakthrough speed, right? He began to gather the divine power in his body, and attacked the profound entrances of his chi again and again. The first 30 waves were extremely easy, and only when he reached the 31st wave did he feel a little strained, but he could still control it. In the blink of an eye, he had already broken through the 36th wave. He continued to gather all of his divine power together without hesitation, and crazily attacked the entrance of the profound entrances. With a pu sound, the profound entrances were broken. An intense pain came from his body, but Lin Muyu still maintained a clear mind. Just now he had already broken through the 37th layer of heavenly passage, but he felt that there was still a bit of potential left in his body, and he could still continue to stimulate it. A crazy thought flashed through his mind: break through 2 realms in one go. The 38th wave crazily surged, and began to attack the 38th profound entrances that had just been formed. Under the crazy attack, the lustrous profound entrances began to distort, and the pain it brought was naturally not something that ordinary people could endure. Lin Muyu let out a cry and spat out a mouthful of blood. The power in his body was like a raging river, and the god-binding chains, the 7 luminaries' holy gourd, the dragon blood battle shield and other powers quickly passed through his body, and were glowing with a buzzing sound. Was he going to go berserk? He was slightly startled, and his mind was already starting to blur. As expected, one shouldn't be too extreme in cultivation. At this moment, Lin Muyu already began to feel a little regretful. But what was the use of regretting? Catasaurus. A roar that came from the depths of his soul instantly tore open the plain behind him, and a Catasaurus flew out with a loud and clear dragon roar, and transformed into a dragon armor that wrapped around Lin Muyu. At the same time, its dragon power formed a shield, and prevented its master's divine power from leaking. Chapter 886. Your Highness, are you all right? Wei Chou and Bai Yin rushed in at almost the same time, only to see Lin Muyu lying on the ground in the form of dragon scale armor. Her body was trembling slightly, and she had already fainted. Oh no, Your Highness has gone mad. Quickly call Head Deacon Chu Yao and Lord Chu Chu. Wei Chou turned pale with fright. At dawn the next day, half of Lin Muyu Hall was in an uproar. There were at least 10 people surrounding Lin Muyu's room. Chu Chu and Chu Yao were protecting her, while Wei Chou, Su Yu and the others were frowning. No one would have thought that Lin Muyu would actually go mad in cultivation at this time. The power has been basically controlled. Chu Yao released Lin Muyu's wrist, covered herself with the blanket and stood up. I just need to rest for a while, don't worry everyone. Before she finished speaking, Lin Muyu had already let out a long sigh, and slowly woke up from her coma. At the moment she woke up, a Catasaurus removed its armor and turned into a large dragon, squatting by the bed, and winking at its master who had just woken up. You, how is it? Chu Chu asked. I'm fine, Chu. But in reality her whole body was still sore, but when Lin Muyu slightly circulated her energy, she discovered that the divine power in her body seemed to be longer and more profound. It was a blessing in disguise, and she actually broke through to the 38th layer of Grotto Heaven. Successor, you are too impatient for success. The one who spoke was Scholar Ling. Ice Palm and Fire Fist should still be guarding the Luo River estuary, and he rushed over after receiving the news. Lin Muyu nodded, but her mind was full of doubts. She said, Su Hao, I feel that my body has become a little strange. My capacity for energy seems to have increased a lot, to the point where I can't completely fill it even after refining a demon spirit stone every day. What's going on? Isn't this state very abnormal? Scholar Ling smiled. No, it is very normal. How so? The invisible elephant art was created by Fuxi, the celestial emperor. When he sent me the message, he told me that the invisible elephant art stimulates your potential in all aspects. The reason why you feel that your body's capacity has increased is because your potential is constantly being stimulated by the invisible elephant art. Furthermore, you have the disposition of a sovereign, the ruler of the 3 realms. This stage is called the recovery period by the celestial emperor, which means that your cultivation was originally higher than this level. With the help of the invisible elephant art, you will quickly recover to the level of strength that you should have, a level that is enough to fight against the gods and Buddhas. How long will the recovery period last? That would depend on the successor's talent and the degree of refinement of their supreme godhead. Scholar Spirit smiled. In short, you don't have to worry too much about your successor. This recovery period is simply a gift from the heavens. Just enjoy it. Yes. At the side, Chu Yao smiled bitterly and said, "In that case, isn't Yu's cultivation increasing further and further away from ours?" Chu Chu laughed heartily and said, "Yes." Scholar Spirit couldn't help but smile. "Great Deacon Chu Yao, don't worry. You are the successor's elder sister. Even if the successor is the strongest in the world, he will not forget you in the end. Also, the stronger the successor is, the more help he can provide to his friends." Of course there was help, such as the 1,000 demon spirit stones that Si Kongyao sent over. Lin Muyu suddenly felt a little dizzy and said, "I'm a little tired. Everyone go back to your work. Let me rest for a while." The crowd dispersed. "Awu," a Catasaurus shook its head. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. She reached out and patted its big head and asked, "Where have you been these days? Why can't I sense your existence?" "Awu, awu, awu," a Catasaurus replied loudly. Lin Muyu's face darkened. She couldn't understand anything and said, "Wei Cho, send someone to feed a Catasaurus meat. It's probably hungry." "Yes, Your Highness." Continuing to lie on the bed, Lin Muyu didn't do anything this time. However, the divine power in her body flowed like a stream. It was as if every cell in her body was recovering. Just like what Scholar Spirit said, her body was recovering to an unknown peak strength. She really didn't know to what extent she would recover. Perhaps she would be able to enter the ranks of the God Emperors? If that was the case, it would be great. At least she wouldn't be at a complete disadvantage when she encountered other God Emperors. 3 days later, Lin Muyu broke through again and stepped into the 39th Grotto Heaven realm. On the 8th of June, the Blackstone Empire's Gale Legion was defeated. The Celestial Empire's 700,000-strong army marched straight in and pounced on the Blackstone Empire's capital, Thousand Mountain City. The war in the Celestial Pole continent was already in full swing. Tianji City, Imperial Palace Hall. Baiming Yuan squinted his eyes and placed his palm on the armrest of the throne. The officials below the steps all had a solemn expression. At this moment, no one dared to speak for fear of saying something wrong. The Gale Legion was defeated. It's a good defeat. Baiming Yuan suddenly stood up, and his gaze was slightly savage as he laughed. This kid, Qin Yu, is really formidable. Even Feng Yang isn't a match for him. The Darkstone Empire is about to be finished. Are all of you satisfied now? Once the Blackstone Empire is destroyed by the Celestial Empire, Qin Yu's next target will be us. He suddenly stomped his feet and the hall instantly started buzzing and trembling. Baiming Yuan looked at the officials with a face full of anger and said, "What's wrong? Why aren't you saying anything?" In the crowd, General Zhang Qing slowly walked out with his hand on the hilt of his sword and said, "Your Majesty, according to what I know, Qinjue sect dispatched nearly 10,000 cultivators. Among them, there are many experts above the sacred martial warrior level helping them in the battle. That's how they managed to defeat the Celestial Empire. Moreover, the Gale Legion led by Feng Yang was originally weaker than the Celestial Empire." "Old General, you're right." Baiming Yuan's expression was slightly respectful. After all, Zhang Qing was a sacred martial god, the treasure of the entire empire. Baiming Yuan slowly walked back to the throne and sat down. He said, "How long can Thousand Mountain City last?" Zhang Qing said, "Thousand Mountain City is the capital of the Blackstone Empire, but it's also the nest of the Thunder Blaze sect. I think Longxi won't just sit back and watch. Once the Thunder Blaze sect takes action, the tomes in their hands will be used. It's hard to say who will win, but at least Thousand Mountain City will be able to defend for 2 or 3 months. Moreover, if the Blackstone Empire is willing, they can recruit mercenaries from all over the country to help the Emperor. The Celestial Empire's troops in the territory of the Blackstone Empire are so long that they won't have it easy. Old General, do you think we should launch a surprise attack on the Celestial Empire now?" Baiming Yuan squinted his eyes. "It's time to let that brat Qin Yu know how powerful he is." Zhang Qing smiled. "Your Majesty, you can't underestimate Qin Yu. He's a schemer and he's definitely not as simple as you think. Moreover, our army's battle in the Broken Cauldron realm has dragged on for too long. It's said that Marshal Baiming Huan's food supply is very tight. We're already in deep trouble in the Broken Cauldron realm. If we fight with the Celestial Empire again, I'm afraid we won't even be able to protect ourselves in the end. Then what should we do?" Baiming Yuan was a little angry. "Old General, do you have any ideas?" "Yes." Zhang Qing sneered. "It's said that the Qin Queen of the Qin Empire, Lin Muyu, met Qin Yu once. The two of them must have some secret plan to attack the Tianji Empire. But we all know that both of them have ulterior motives and wild ambitions. In my opinion, why don't we beat them at their own game?" "How do we beat them at their own game?" The smoother our battle in the Broken Cauldron realm, the more likely it is that Qinyu will attack us. But if our battle doesn't go well, Qinyu will definitely think that we might give up on the Broken Cauldron realm and withdraw our troops. Why don't Your Majesty send an order for Marshal Baiming Huan's troops to withdraw from Tongtian province and move to 8 Desolation province from the sea to meet up with Long Ji's troops to prevent us from being attacked from both sides. Once this news reaches Qinyu's ears, he will think that we might increase our troops in the Broken Cauldron realm and attack the Blackstone Empire with all his might. We can then take advantage of this and attack the Celestial Empire's scorching cold city directly. Then we can't do anything now. No, we can. We can help the Blackstone Empire appropriately. Oh? What appropriate way? Your Majesty, as you know, half a month ago, 2 of the Blackstone Empire's top 10 mercenary corps were surrounded by us on the mountain at the border. At this time, we might as well open this gap and send our cavalry to expel these 2 mercenary corps to attack the Celestial Empire's army. This way we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. On one hand, we can help the Blackstone Empire greatly, and on the other hand, we can weaken the Celestial Empire's army. Ha ha ha, Baiming Yuan laughed loudly. Old General Zhang Cheng is indeed astute and astute. I can't help but admire you. Alright, let's follow your plan of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Yes. In addition, is the Tianji sect willing to send troops? No. An attendant said, Your Majesty, sect leader Sikong Ming has already rejected our requests 3 times. He said that unless there are enemies invading our Tianji Empire's land, the Tianji sect will not participate in any war. This stubborn old man? Baiming Yuan frowned. Let him be. We can't care so much anymore. Is there any news from the Forest of No Return? How is the demonic spirit clan? Zhang Qing said, The demon emperor Nu Sha has been rather active recently. She has mobilized the demonic spirit clan's army in the Forest of No Return. It seems like she has some ulterior motives. We have to be on guard. Yes. In the Western God realm, outside the Divine Palace, hundreds of angel-level powerhouses stood densely packed together. These powerhouses had come from various star regions, and they were all waiting for their ruler, Claude's words. Amidst the buzzing sound, Claude walked out of the shrine with his entire body wrapped in the chaotic light source energy. He looked at the crowd indifferently. Greetings, ruler. Rise. Claude smiled faintly. The celestial pole continent, which is known as the Western Divine Realm's cradle of geniuses, is in trouble. I believe everyone is aware of this. This time we have gathered everyone here to exile all of you. We will let you travel to the celestial pole continent from another plane and help the people of the celestial pole continent win the war quickly. Yes. No one had any doubts. Chapter 887. On the 11th of June at noon, the scorching sun shone on the dense forest to the north of the Luo River estuary fortress. There were herds of muntjac deer in the forest, badgers running around, and pythons as thick as the mouth of a bowl slithered along the edge of the stream. This forest was classified as a forbidden area by the eastern capital. There were soldiers guarding the perimeter. Hunters and farmers were not allowed to enter, in case they were hurt by the spiritual beasts in the forest. However, there was still a group of people in the forest. They were dressed in the summer military uniforms of the empire. Their armors were taken off and hung on the backs of horses. Wei Chou and Bai Yin were guarding this place with nearly 100 guards of the Longdan army camp. Lin Muyu was cultivating in the forest. After several days of cultivation, his strength had broken through again. This time he was going to break through the second sky of the God King realm and reach the 40th Grotto Heaven realm. Under a towering ancient tree, Lin Muyu's eyes were tightly shut. His entire body was emitting a faint golden light. He was sitting on the ground, rippling with the power of the golden elephant wheel. Using the formless elephant secret art to promote his cultivation had become one of his instincts. Sparks were bursting in the air. It looked normal, but in fact the power in Lin Muyu's body was very shocking. Waves of God waves were rushing towards the hidden gate. As long as he broke through this hidden gate, he would be among the God state experts who were above the 40th Grotto Heaven realm. However, it was already very difficult for those who had the supremacy to cultivate. Even during the recovery period it was quite difficult. The veins on his face were bulging and he was sweating. The grass around him had evaporated and turned into a pile of withered grass. The pythons and poisonous snakes that were entrenched in the distance, trying to sneak up on him, felt an inexplicable fear. They all screamed and left. In their eyes, Lin Muyu's strength had completely exceeded the scope of a human being's ability. Pa 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 pa, the sound of the power explosion became more and more frequent. When it finally died out, Lin Muyu's body trembled slightly. Finally, he had broken through successfully. In his Yi, a golden cloud was slowly rotating. This was the symbol of the new ability he had obtained after stepping into the 40th Grotto Heaven realm, strategy. The divine stratagem was the ability to see through other people's minds. It was no different from the legendary mind-reading ability, or even better. The scope of the divine stratagem was wider. Mind-reading was originally something that hurt others and oneself. Spying on others made Lin Muyu feel a little contemptuous. He gritted his teeth and forcefully pushed the newly formed floating cloud into the depths of his EC. He did not want to have this ability. However, when all the golden clouds had sunk into the E could no longer remain calm. In the blink of an eye, waves surged and waves surged. Rays of golden energy pierced through the surface of the sea and shot into the sky. What's going on? Lin Muyu was surprised. In the sky, a crack tore open. It was the spiritual scholar and the beaming king who was in a daze followed behind him. The spiritual scholar gently waved his paper fan and smiled. Successor, do you really not intend to obtain the power of divine strategy? This power of divine strategy is not something that ordinary people can have. It must be someone with outstanding talent and the right opportunity to awaken the power of divine strategy. This subordinate has seen the Pantheon canon, and there are less than 10% of the people who have awakened the power of divine strategy. Successor, do you really not want it? I don't want it. Lin Muyu shook her head. Prying into other people's minds will increase the burden on your own mind. Rather than that, it is better to be magnanimous, isn't it? Successor, you are wise. The spiritual scholar gently waved his paper fan and smiled. That is why Successor would rather give up the power of divine strategy. However, it is also a blessing. What blessing? Since ancient times, there were a few people who gave up the power of divine strategy. However, only 1 or 2 people obtained this blessing. After giving up the power of divine strategy, the power of divine strategy would hibernate in the depths of the Yi and form a barrier to prevent other people's spiritual power from invading. In other words, other god emperors would not be able to see into the successor's mind. This ability is called the anti-divine strategy power in the Pantheon canon. Now, Successor has obtained this ability. This is really worthy of celebration. I see. Lin Muyu smiled. This ability is not bad. It would not feel good to always be seen through by others. Yes. The spiritual scholar squinted his eyes and said, Successor, I used my divine power to examine you and found that your invisible elephant technique has improved a lot. I wonder how long more it will take for you to break through and step into the 3rd stage, 100 elephants demon slaying? I do not know either. However, there are already more than 70 elephant wheels in my Yi that can be formed at the same time. That will be soon. Please continue to cultivate diligently, Successor. Ah, Suhao, why are you urging me so much? It is very simple. Scholar Ling cupped his fists respectfully and said, His Majesty the Sky Emperor asked me to assist the successor. Firstly, it is to ensure that the successor does not die. I am incompetent and my cultivation is low, so I can only rely on the successor to protect himself. Therefore, the only thing I can do is to assist the successor with all the secrets of the ancient books I have learned. His Majesty the Sky Emperor passed me the Pantheon canon to assist the successor. As he spoke, the spiritual scholar gently opened his palm. Immediately, a golden scroll flipped rapidly in his palm. It was the legendary Pantheon canon. It seemed that Fushi had imparted many things. Although he was in the sky beyond heaven, Fushi seemed to be more concerned about everything that happened in the Eastern Heaven realm than anyone else. However, at this moment, the Pantheon canon suddenly shone brightly and the pages trembled. What's going on? Lin Muyu asked in shock. Scholar Ling raised his head to look at the sky in the west. He couldn't help but frown as he said, The Pantheon canon seems to have sensed the fluctuations of the divine power of the Western divine realm. This is bad. Someone must have started to travel between planes again. Their target might be our Shattered Cauldron realm. What? Lin Muyu gritted her teeth and clenched her fists. Immediately, she controlled the power of heaven and earth around her and said sternly, Has the Western divine realm gone mad? Isn't it enough to send 10 battle angels? Do they want to destroy us completely? It seems so. The spiritual scholar stared at the energy fluctuation on the Pantheon canon. Only when the Pantheon canon no longer shone did he take a deep breath and say, Oh no, there are a total of 324 energy fluctuations. More than 50 of them belong to people above the Divine King level. Lin Muyu didn't say anything else. She stepped on a branch and flew to the periphery. She stood proudly in the air and said to Wei Chou and the others, "Let's go back immediately. Pass down the order to strengthen the defenses of all cities. In addition, urge the weapons department to forge more demonic heart arrows." Yes. As he spoke, he looked towards the south. According to the time, Shangguan Jingyue and Fengshi should have already reached the Dragon Slaying Pass, right? Dragon Slaying Pass. Summer was overflowing. Feng Shi and the others took a small path and avoided the eyes of the Darkstone Empire's army. When they arrived outside the Dragon Slayer Pass, they saw the violet snowflower flag still fluttering on the pass, and the other was a slightly smaller Battle Angel flag. It seems that Marquis Tsangnan hasn't betrayed the Empire. Feng Shi smiled in relief. Shangguan Jingyue nodded, her beautiful face covered with sweat. Today's weather was unusually hot, so much so that she wanted to take off her long skirt. Only the rest of the people here were all grown men. If she took off her clothes, it was hard to guarantee that these people would be able to control themselves. After all, after Lin Muyu came to power, she completely abolished the military concubine system. The soldiers of the Qin Empire, perhaps many of them hadn't touched a woman for many years. Halt. On the city wall, a general took up his bow and shot an arrow. Puchi. The arrow fell to the ground 2 meters in front of the hooves of Fengshi's war horse. The general shouted, "Who goes there?" Fengshi took a Longdan army camp war flag from an attendant. On it was a large dragon-shaped insignia. He raised the war flag high and said loudly, "I am the commander of the rear army of the Longdan army camp, Fengshi. I have come to the Dragon Slaying Pass on the orders of the Qin Emperor. Please immediately open and close it." "Your Excellency Fengshi?" The general was startled and said, "Your Excellency, please wait a moment. This subordinate will go and report to the Marquis. Please hurry." "Yes." In the mansion within the pass, Xin, Su Jiantao, Xiang Yu and the others gathered together. After receiving the report, Su Jiantao had an awkward expression and said, "Sure enough, what should come has come. Her Highness has actually sent Fengshi to the Dragon Slaying Pass. It seems that our news has already spread to the eastern capital. Your Excellency Xin, what do you think?" "The Her Highness you are talking about, is it Lin Muyu?" Xin said softly. When she spat out the 3 words Lin Muyu, her heart unexpectedly throbbed for no reason. It made her rather flustered, but she couldn't say why it was like this. "It is precisely the Qin Emperor Lin Muyu. He is my sovereign king." Su Jiantao said, "According to the original agreement, Your Excellency Xin will help me guard the Dragon Slaying Pass. However, this city still belongs to the Qin Empire. I have no reason to refuse Fengshi's entry into the city, so, Your Excellency Xin, what do you think?" Xin closed her eyes and nodded. "Who you receive is your business. You are the master of the Dragon Slaying Pass. I and the Xin army are merely guests." "Good. Many thanks for Your Excellency Xin's understanding. Come, invite His Excellency Fengshi to enter the pass and directly bring him to the meeting hall." "Yes." Not long after, the sound of galloping horses could be heard from the outside. Fengshi was not the only one who had entered the meeting hall. A beautiful woman had also arrived. It was Shangguan Jingyue. When Shangguan Jingyue entered the meeting hall, she immediately saw Shi'in, who was wearing the Battle Angel's attire. She could not help but tremble and let out a cry. She stared at Shi'in in a daze. She looked exactly the same. Her voice and smile were exactly the same as when Shi'in had died in the Crimson Abyss. "What's wrong, Excellency Shangguan?" Xiang Yu asked with a smile. Shangguan Jingyue didn't care about overstepping her authority. She slowly walked forward until she was less than 2 meters away from Xin. She stared blankly at her exquisite face and said, "Is it really you? Is it really you? Your Highness." At the side, Terralyn couldn't help but laugh. "Another one who has mistaken me for someone else." Xin didn't open her eyes. She gently raised the corner of her mouth. "Who are you? Do you know me?" "I am Jingyue." Shangguan Jingyue's body trembled slightly. She said, "Your Highness Yin, I am the Excellency Shangguan Jingyue who is guarding by your side. Can't you recognize my voice?" "Your eyes. What happened to your eyes?" "I'm fine. Moreover, I'm not Qin." Xin smiled. "Call me Xin. I come from the Western Divine Realm. I am the younger sister of Her Excellency Shi Yan. I am the captain of the Battle Angel team." Shangguan Jingyue still wanted to say something. However, Fengshi interrupted her. He cupped his fists and said, "General Fengshi pays his respects to Duke Yu and Marquis Tsangnan." Excellency Fengshi, you may rise. Fengshi straightened his body. His eyes were like torches. Marquis Tsangnan, why did you cut off communications with the eastern capital? Chapter 888. As a soldier of the empire, Fengshi asked straightforwardly. Su Jintao stood up and answered straightforwardly, because it's hard to explain in a few words. Is this reason enough? Yes. Fengshi bluntly walked to the side, sat down at an empty table and said, then this general will listen to why it's hard to explain in a few words. This time, this envoy to Dragon Slaying Pass is under His Highness's order. As the saying goes, the mission must be accomplished. Please forgive this general for overstepping my authority. Su Jintao nodded. Brother Fengshi, we are brothers who have eaten in the same pot. I won't hide it from you. Currently, Dragon Slaying Pass is not only guarded by me, but also by Lord Xin's Xin Corps. If I remember correctly, the Angel Corps is helping the Celestial Pole continent, right? Fengshi narrowed his eyes and said, a battle angel called Dora not only killed the Marquis of Tranquil Sea Yao Yuan, but also killed the Duke of North, Luo Xin. You should have heard of this matter, but why is it now? As you can see, Lord Xin is different from Dora. Su Jintao clenched his teeth and said, she may be Her Highness Qinin, but I can't remember for the time being. Fengshi also saw Xin's appearance, and naturally knew that she looked too much like Qinin. But resemblance was resemblance and couldn't be discussed together and said, even so, it's not a reason for you to refuse to interact with the eastern capital. I'm worried that Lord Xin's news will disturb His Highness Qin Wang's sense of propriety, Su Jintao said indifferently. Ah. Fengshi was surprised. Shengguan Jingyue also pursed her red lips, but didn't say anything. Su Jintao continued, His Highness, the Prince of Qin, has been waiting for her for a full 6 years. 6 years? Ah, and he has never seen her again. I can understand the pain of wanting to see her but not being able to. We all feel that His Highness, the Prince of Qin, is fighting side by side with us, but in reality he has been lonely in the depths of his heart for 6 years. If we let him know that a person who closely resembles Her Highness Qin is in the Dragon Slaying Pass, would he still be able to remain calm and defend the eastern capital? Fengshi remained silent, unable to refute. Su Jintao waved his hand and said, taking 10,000 steps back, Dragon Slaying Pass really does need Lord Xin's strength. Fengshi, it's not like you don't know that Lanyan City's treasury has been almost completely consumed by this war. The majority of the magicite cannons forged by the weapons department have been sent to the Lingdong, Dubhe, and Qihai provinces. I, Su Jintao, have been allocated less than 50,000 magicite cannons, which were nearly used up in the Battle of Tsangnan province. Right now, I don't even have 10,000 magicite cannons on hand. How am I going to resist the 200,000 troops of the Blackstone Empire? What's more? Su Jintao pressed his hand on the table, his palms slightly trembling as he said, I, Su Jintao, am only a mortal. I also fear death. The majority of the Dragon Knights of the Blackstone Empire are at the God Realm, and Bailey Qin is even a God Emperor with exceedingly powerful strength. Do you really want me, Su Jintao, to resist a God Emperor with my mortal body? I need the help of Xin and the Xin Corps, otherwise, I, Su Jintao, will not be regretted even if I die, but the common people of Lingdong cannot escape the Blackstone Empire's slaughter and trampling. Do you understand all this? Fengshi was silent for a few seconds, then said in a low voice, Marquis Tsangnan, you've worked hard. It's not hard at all. Su Jintao glanced at him. As long as I can live with dignity no matter what, it's not hard at all. The Dragon Slaying Pass is facing the threat of 200,000 troops of the Blackstone Empire, and war may break out every day. And the eastern capital is not much better. If Baiming Huan is unable to take down the heaven-reaching gorge, he will definitely think of a way to seize the eastern capital's Winter Frost City. Your Highness will be even more miserable. I, Su Jintao, do not want Your Highness to be distracted, so I have cut off all correspondence with the eastern capital. If the Dragon Slaying Pass falls, I, Su Jintao, will definitely have already died for my country. Fengshi was silent. Xiang Yu sneered, since Your Highness you sent Lord Fengshi to the Dragon Slaying Pass, this means that someone in the eastern capital must have slandered you. Isn't that right, Lord Fengshi? Slandered? Fengshi couldn't help but smile. Lord Yu, may I ask where your 70,000 Shangyang City garrison army is? Right behind the Dragon Slaying Pass. If this one remembers correctly, from the Blue Wind Sea battle to the Battle of the Luo River Estuary, and then to the Battle of the Southern Ridge, these 70,000 Shangyang City garrison army still remained 70,000 without a single casualty. Lord Yu truly leads his troops well. Feng Shi sneered. His pair of eyes stared at Xiangyu with a threatening gaze. The meaning behind his words couldn't be any clearer. Xiangyu was afraid of battle and had never truly crossed swords with a strong enemy. To put it nicely, he was conserving his strength, but to put it bluntly, he was plotting a rebellion. Feng Shi, what do you mean by that? Xiangyu faintly smiled. I don't mean anything. Lord Yu knows best in his heart. Feng Shi stood up and said, since the matter has been clarified, this general will immediately return to the eastern capital to report everything to your highness. Of course, I will not mention Xin's appearance. Su Jintao stood up. Feng Shi, rest for a night. Eat your fill before you leave. No need. Feng Shi shook his head and smiled bitterly. His highness has been waiting for my news every day. I can't wait to grow wings and fly back to the eastern capital. Su Jintao, you must guard the dragon-slaying pass well. Don't distract his highness any longer. He is already too tired. Yes, I know. Don't worry. Xin indifferently raised her head. Feeling the footsteps of Feng Shi and Shangguan Jingyue leaving, she suddenly felt as if she had lost something in her heart. What's wrong, Xin? Terralyn asked. Nothing. She wasn't willing to say it. Her mind was in extreme pain and was about to become a mess. At this moment, she even hated herself for not remembering everything here. If everything was fake, why did she feel like she had met this place before? In the eastern heaven, above many spiritual mountains, lightning flickered. The crackling electric net formed a barrier that almost enveloped the entire sky above the eastern heaven realm. In the sky, a figure was faintly discernible. It was the 7 luminaries demon emperor who was holding the Pangu axe. He constantly used the power of the Pangu axe to strengthen the barrier while closing his eyes. His eyelids were twitching rapidly. What's wrong, demon emperor? At the side, Qing Ping and Sun Feng, the 298 heavenly path god emperors, were quietly waiting. They had already sensed the restlessness of the 7 luminaries demon emperor. Another god has disappeared from the list of the Western divine realm. The 7 luminaries demon emperor closed his eyes and said with an ashen face, Bastard Claude, he wants to send people to the Shattered Cauldron realm again. Does he really want to kill you so badly? Sun Feng frowned. You has the sovereign godhead. Any god would covet it. Claude's desire for this sovereign godhead must be extraordinarily strong. The more gods the Western divine realm sends to the celestial pole continent, the more it shows Claude's desire for power. Demon Emperor, we should also take action. There is no star cave in the eastern heaven. The 7 luminaries demon emperor opened his eyes. His deep eyes were filled with anger. There is only one way for us to banish gods, and that is to seize their godhead and remove their names from the eastern divine realm. Just like what happened to Ouyang Yen in the past. Even if I send the 2 of you to the Shattered Cauldron realm, you can only fight a god emperor like Xikong Ming with the identity of a crippled god as long as it doesn't violate the divine pact. Are you confident? Xikong Ming. Qing Ping puffed out her full chest and said with a smile, if I remove my godhead, I only have less than 40% chance of winning against Xikong Ming. After all, without the divine power of the godhead, my strength will be greatly weakened. But if I violate the divine pact and order you to descend to the Shattered Cauldron realm, Xiao will lose her cultivation. The 7 luminaries demon emperor gritted his teeth and said, she has just stepped into the 99th level of paradise not long ago. I can't let all of her efforts go to waste. Then what should we do now? We can't just watch as the gods of the Western divine realm descend from the sky and kill everyone in the Shattered Cauldron realm. The Shattered Cauldron realm is the territory of the eastern heaven. Moreover, you and Qinin are also there. Qinin? The fierce eyes of the 7 luminaries demon emperor flashed with a hint of gentleness. He said, I don't know when Yu's little girlfriend will awaken from the heavenly law reincarnation. Only when she awakens can she truly help you. Otherwise she will still be Xin, still a person of the Western divine realm. Sun Feng, check for me. Approximately how long will it take for the banished land to travel to the Shattered Cauldron realm? 1 day later. Sun Feng said without hesitation, this subordinate has already checked. It happens to be 1 day later at this time. There's no other way. We can only ask for Xiao's help. The 7 luminaries demon emperor closed his eyes, and golden light instantly shone around him. Spiritual energy spread out and he silently said in his heart, Xiao, are you there? At this time in the ancient desolate realm of gods, Xiao was flying through the air in a white robe. On the ground, divine bulls were galloping and white dragons were soaring. The ancient desolate realm of gods was a godly realm that had yet to fully develop. It was filled with danger and mysteries. Suddenly Xiao stopped. She heard the call of the 7 luminaries demon emperor. "I'm here. What's wrong?" She slowly closed her eyes. The Western Divine Realm has exiled another 300 or so dimensional gods. They want to completely eradicate the Shattered Cauldron Realm. I have to help you. Moreover, there's only 1 day left. Have you found the other divine weapons? I've found one. Xiao looked at the long sword in her hand. The blade of this sword was clear and bright, and the body of the sword was engraved with ancient patterns, mountains, rivers, humans, animals, and so on. A faint aura of righteousness flowed from the sword into her arm, making people feel a sense of justice. The corners of Xiao's mouth raised slightly and she said, "I found the Xinyuan sword." "That's great." The 7 luminaries demon emperor was overjoyed. "Think of a way to return the Xinyuan sword to me. If I can gather the god power of the Xinyuan sword and Penga's axe, maybe I can condense a flame not for the Shattered Cauldron Realm and make Claude suffer the consequences of his own actions." Flame knot. Xiao bit her red lips. "If you really do that, it'll consume at least 10% of your cultivation. Cultivation cultivates the state of mind. It only consumes god power. Don't worry about me. Quickly think of a way to return the Xinyuan sword." "And I will. You have to be careful too." "Don't worry." Xiao stood in an ancient fertile field. The Xinyuan sword in her hand trembled slightly. It was difficult for her to make this decision. In order to help the Shattered Cauldron Realm, there seemed to be nothing the 7 luminaries demon emperor wouldn't do. But in the end she still had to help him. Chapter 889. In the vast heavens, countless stars twinkled in the night sky. Every star corresponded to a spiritual mountain in the divine realm. In the sky, a crescent moon shone on the blood clouds formed by the 9 heavens' divine lightning. Buzz. Suddenly, an azure blue light flickered in the sky. Immediately after, a spiraling energy pierced out from the alternate space. "It's here. It's a message from Lord Xiao. I'll go get it." Sun Feng leaped over, his body turning into a spiritual brilliance that lingered around the spiraling energy. Suddenly, rumbling flames exploded behind him, extending for dozens of miles. Finally, the flames were abruptly extinguished. After the light dissipated, Sun Feng was holding a resplendent longsword with both hands. With a face full of joy, he said, "Is this the legendary Xinyuan sword?" He respectfully held the longsword and flew into the array net of the 9 heavens' divine lightning. He said, "Demon Emperor, the item is here." The 7 luminaries demon emperor nodded. He held the Pengu axe in his left hand and the Xinyuan sword in his right hand. Suddenly, a vast power surged into his body, neutralizing the violent feeling brought by the Pengu axe. The Xinyuan sword was a sword of the divine path. It contained a vast righteousness and was the symbol of the ancient civilization and the divine path. Naturally, it was very different. "It's done." The 7 luminaries demon emperor's voice became a little excited. He said, "Qingping, help me lock onto the Shattered Cauldron Realm and the Celestial Pole Continent. I want the Western Divine Realm to suffer for what they've sown." "Yes, Demon Emperor." Qingping shouted and parted the clouds in front of her. Suddenly, an azure blue planet appeared in front of her. However, one could see with the naked eye that the planet was actually divided into 2 halves. There was a very obvious gap, just like an apple being cut in half. Air currents floated on the surface of the planet, protecting all the living things on the continent. What a beautiful Shattered Cauldron Realm. Qingping couldn't help but feel a little dazed. "How much longer until the Wheel of Time calibrates the Shattered Cauldron Realm?" asked the Demon Emperor. "In the time it takes for a joss stick to burn, Demon Emperor, you can already circulate your powers." "All right." The 7 luminaries demon emperor stepped on the 9 heavens divine thunder barrier. With the Pengu axe in his left hand and the Xinyuan sword in his right, he suddenly shouted and gathered all of his power. Immediately, the 2 divine weapons were controlled by him, causing electric currents to crackle. The demon emperor looked at the Shattered Cauldron World's planar star with his torch-like eyes and shouted, "All the flames of heaven and earth, heed my command." Buzz buzz buzz. In the faraway illusion, the surface of the Shattered Cauldron Realm's star slowly condensed into wisps of invisible flames. These flames gathered together as if they had a mind of their own, forming a fiery barrier. This was the flame barrier that the 7 luminaries demon emperor and Xiao had mentioned. This was an armor of flames that covered the entire plane. The color of the flame barrier became more intense, and its power became more and more vigorous. The two divine weapons in the hands of the seven luminaries demon emperor trembled violently. Their power was being rapidly evaporated and absorbed. The flame barrier formed by the power of the two divine weapons and the seven luminaries demon emperor, one could imagine how powerful its defense was. The time it took for a jaw stick to burn passed very quickly. It's here. Sun Feng suddenly shouted. As the God Emperor of the 98 heavens, he actually couldn't remain calm. His emotions were fluctuating. Such a scene was probably something that many gods would never see in their lifetime. In the entire world, perhaps only the seven luminaries demon emperor had the cultivation to control two divine weapons at the same time and set up such an unprecedented ambush. Swish swish swish. Outside the shattered cauldron realm's star, streams of light rapidly appeared and rushed over. Each stream of light represented an angel from the western heaven realm. They flew towards the shattered cauldron realm in a dense mass. Once they entered the atmosphere, they would become the death gods of the entire shattered cauldron realm. But this time they couldn't reach the shattered cauldron realm. The first stream of light collided with the flame barrier. Instantly, a monstrous flame surged out, and the stream of light turned into dust in the universe. Following that, the second, third, fourth and more came. The sounds of explosions rang out incessantly. This scene was like moths flying into a flame. They were unable to change their trajectory as they were shuttling through space. One by one, they collided with the flame barrier like moths flying into a flame and turned into dust in the universe. The entire flame barrier was trembling violently. Waves of flame rippled non-stop. While killing these gods, it would also cause a huge impact on the flame barrier. After all, divine power was also conserved. Oh my God! Qing Ping was dumbfounded as she watched. Sun Feng, on the other hand, clenched his fists tightly. He was counting. At least 200 angels had been turned into ashes by the flame barrier, and more were coming. The seven luminaries demon emperor's body was faintly glowing with golden light. He was still holding on with the Pangu axe and Shenyuan sword in his hands. He gritted his teeth and held on bitterly. He couldn't let any of the angels descend into the shattered cauldron realm. Otherwise it would be big trouble for Lin Muyu and Qin Yin. However, the flame barrier's power was still weakening. Finally, a dozen or so angels crashed through the flame barrier and fell into the shattered cauldron realm's atmosphere. Hua! The flame barrier finally shattered. The seven brilliance demon monarch took a few steps backward in the air. His face was covered in sweat. He could not help but drop to his knees on the nine heavens thunderous barrier while panting heavily. What he had done had greatly exceeded his capabilities. As a matter of fact, he was probably the only person who could kill so many angels from such a great distance. What's the result? He raised his head and asked. Sun Feng was overjoyed. Only a dozen or so angels escaped. Don't worry, Demon Emperor. With Yu's ability, he definitely won't be stumped by a dozen or so angels. You've already helped you a lot this time. That's good. Demon Emperor. Qing Ping looked at the seven luminaries Demon Emperor and suddenly froze. Tears welled up in her eyes. What's wrong, Qing Ping? The seven luminaries Demon Emperor was a little surprised. You look at yourself? Ah? The seven luminaries Demon Emperor quickly transformed into a mirror image. He couldn't help but be stunned when he saw himself in the mirror. After using the two divine weapons to activate the flame barrier, a strand of white hair had appeared on his temples. Am I aging? Haha, I'm fine, he said softly. Qing Ping was scared to tears. How can a god emperor age? How can a god emperor age? Demon Emperor, don't ever use the flame barrier again. Got it? You're really troublesome. The seven luminaries Demon Emperor smiled faintly and said, Sun Feng, go and gather our celestial race army. What is Demon Emperor going to do? Do what? The seven luminaries Demon Emperor sneered. Since Claude likes to stir up trouble so much, let him have a taste of his own medicine. The Western Divine Realm has lost so many God Emperors, God Kings and Godly Venerables in an instant. Their strength is lacking. If not now, then when? Pass down my orders. Gather 50,000 gods of East Heaven and set off in 2 hours to attack the eastern border of the Western Divine Realm. Attack as far as you can. If possible, it's best to attack the root of the problem. Get rid of that idiot Claude and replace him. Yes. The seven luminaries Demon Emperor panted heavily. He looked down at the Shenyuan sword in his hand and said to himself, Your aura is very similar to Yu's. Forget it. After I use you to attack the Western Divine Realm, I'll send you to Yu by express delivery. Bastard! Bastard! In the Western Divine Realm, rays of light god power hit the stone pillars. In the blink of an eye, a side hall was turned into dust. Claude was shrouded in a light curtain. His face was full of anger. What? Why is the Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor able to see through the people of the Western Divine Realm? What is that barrier he opened? The entire Western Divine Realm was shocked by the loss of more than 300 angels in an instant. As the ruler, Claude had an unshirkable responsibility for this matter. Once the major families started to blame him, his days would probably be very difficult. Chien and Eva followed behind him. They had never seen Claude break down like this. It seemed that this blow was too big for Claude. Ruler. Chien called out softly. What? Claude turned back to look at her. I'm afraid that the army of the Eastern Divine Realm will arrive soon. Chien said, the Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor has never been one to suffer losses. This time, after seeing through our intentions, he will definitely launch an invasion. The war of the gods will once again descend upon the Western Divine Realm. I know this is only a matter of time. Claude's voice was very cold. Chien, Eva, send my divine edict to the major families of the Western Divine Realm, ordering them to do their best to defend the eastern border. This war of the gods will be commanded by the two of you. It must be a head-on attack, and all the armies of the eastern heaven must be beaten back. But ruler, Terralyn Lake and the other battle angels haven't returned yet. This subordinate is worried that the Light Clan and the other families won't fully help the temple. If they refuse to send troops, what should we do? Claude took a deep breath and said, tell them that Terralyn Lake and Zhou Shimin will soon return from their training. Tell them not to worry and go do it. If they don't send troops, I will punish them. Yes. Shattered Cauldron Realm, the eastern capital, Winter Frost City. There was a faint fiery red color in the sky. Ripples of fire spread out continuously, as though meteorites were smashing into Tianquan's enchantment. At the same time, every ripple of fire signified the disappearance of a strand of divine power. Outside the hall, Lin Muyu, Scholar Ling, Chu Yao, and the others looked up at the stars, their faces full of horror. What is that? Chu Yao asked softly. She was even a little afraid. After all, she hadn't stepped into the divine realm, and she couldn't even see through divine power. How could she not be afraid when she saw this kind of heavenly power? It's okay. Lin Muyu held her hand and said, it seems, the Demon Emperor is helping us again. Besides him, no one else has such great magical power. Yes. Scholar Ling nodded and said, after His Majesty the Celestial Emperor ascended to the heavens beyond heaven, this new master of the Eastern Heaven is not simple. Chapter 890. June 15th, outside Twilight Rain City, Longji Army Camp. Near noon, Feng Lan, dressed in a commander's armor, rode his horse through the camp. Suddenly he heard a burst of wailing and crying. He immediately stopped his horse and asked, what's wrong? Yes, the casualty camp. A guard said. Let's go, follow me to take a look. Yes. A group of people quickly turned around and entered the casualty camp. When Feng Lan got off his horse, he saw soldiers covered with ulcers howling in pain. They seemed to be in great pain. Some of them were already lying on the ground, unable to move. All the beds in the casualty camp had been used up, so most of the patients could only lie on the ground. What's going on? Call the medical officer over. Yes. Not long after, a middle-aged medical officer rushed over and knelt on the ground. Greetings, Commander. Get up and answer me. What's going on here? Reporting to Commander, it's a plague called Lycia. A few days ago, a group of refugees came from Tongyun Pass. Among them, there were some beautiful women who were left in our camp. But no one knew that they were infected, so many soldiers in the army were infected. Is there a way to cure them? Feng Lan asked indifferently. Not yet. The medical officer frowned and said, all of our medical officers are helpless. This plague is very strange. Almost all of the herbs are unable to fight against this poison. Commander, this is the Qin army of Tongyun Pass taking revenge on us. They purposely chased the infected refugees back to Muyu City so that they could defeat our Longji Corps without shedding a single drop of blood. They must be punished. A bunch of bastards. Feng Lan gritted his teeth and said, then what do we do now? How can we stop this plague? The medical officer seemed to be a little afraid and kept his mouth shut. Just say it. Lycia is transmitted through the breath and blood. There are two ways to stop it. One is to burn it. The other is to bury it alive. We must not use swords to kill the patients. Otherwise, it will be transmitted through swords. Transmitted through the blood? Feng Lan frowned and remained silent. Right at this moment, a figure descended from the sky. It was Dora, who was holding onto the Deg's spear. She had always stayed in the army and was now wearing the 4-star rank of deputy commander on her shoulder. It was because of her assistance that the Longji army was able to seize the Cloud province. Therefore, Feng Lan had specially sent a letter back to the Empire to ask for merits for her. Currently, Dora was no longer just a battle angel. She was also the deputy commander of the Longji army who had tens of thousands of troops in her hands. This made her very satisfied. Only authority and slaughter could satisfy a black-winged battle angel. Miss Dora, did you hear everything? Feng Lan asked. Yes. Dora landed on the ground and propped his spear on the ground, saying, Since the Qin army has sent the evil plague to our army, why don't we beat them at their own game and return the plague to them? How do we send them back? Feng Lan was stunned. Do we have to wave a whip and chase them back to Tongyun Pass? How troublesome would that be? Dora puffed out her full chest and smiled proudly. Actually, there's an even simpler way. Please enlighten us, Miss Dora, Feng Lan said respectfully. At this time, Lin Tongtian had also brought a few dragon knights into the casualty camp. He was also attracted by the tragic cries. Greetings, Commander. No need to be so polite, Dragon Knight Lin Tongtian. Feng Lan nodded in greeting, then looked at Dora and said, Miss Dora, please tell us, what should we do? Dora's eyes flashed coldly as she said, Send all the infected soldiers to the Daojiang River and kill them. Then throw the knives and corpses into the Daojiang River. It's summer now and the river is flowing south. A few hundred miles downstream is the Cloud Gate. The 50,000 elites led by Feng Jixing are guarding the Cloud Gate. Once these corpses flow along the river and send the plague to the Cloud Gate, do you think Feng Jixing's troops can still guard the Cloud Gate? Feng Lan was stunned. Lin Tongtian was stunned. A trace of anger flashed across his face as he said, Miss Dora, you must not do this. Why not, Lord Lin Tongtian? First, if we send the plague into the Daojiang River, the water of the Daojiang River will spread the plague all the way. The civilians living on both sides of the Daojiang River will suffer. If this spreads, how many millions of people will be infected? Second, our army has just established a foothold in the Cloud Gate province. By right, we should make announcements to appease the people and win their hearts. If we do this now, will the people of the Qin Empire be loyal to us? Since we want to be the masters of the Shattered Cauldron realm, we should not do such a heartless thing. Lord Lin Tongtian makes it sound so simple. Dora sneered, Our army has been in Wuxia City for so many days, and we have not done anything to the people. But have they been loyal? In half a month, the number of Longji army soldiers and wolf soldiers that died under the attacks of the refugees numbered more than 100. This was the best proof. Furthermore, there were 50,000 steel cavalry and close to 50,000 steel blade army remnants as well as 50,000 new soldiers stationed in the Cloud Gate. Especially the 50,000 steel cavalry, they were all elites that Feng Jixing had selected from the various armies of the Empire. The Imperial Guards and the elite steel cavalry of the Longdan Battalion were all there. Was it wrong to kill many birds with one stone? Lord Lin Tongtian wants to sacrifice the lives of 50,000 warriors of the Qinji Empire in exchange for the victory of defeating Feng Jixing? Lin Tongtian gritted his teeth and nodded without saying a word. Obviously, Feng Lan and Dora were the same kind of people. Kindness does not lead an army. Feng Lan naturally understood the importance of using unscrupulous means. She nodded and said, Miss Dora's words are very reasonable. I agree with you. Times have changed. We are isolated and helpless in Wuxia City. We have to take extreme measures. I hope that Lord Dragon Knight Lin Tongtian can understand. Lin Tongtian looked at the soldiers in the camp and said, Are we really going to kill them all? This is something that we have no choice but to do. So be it. Lin Tongtian sighed. I'm only here to help the Tianji Dragon Riders. I shouldn't be interfering with military affairs. Let Commander Feng Lan and Deputy Commander Duo La decide. Thank you for your understanding, Lord Lin Tongtian. Feng Lan cupped her fists and signaled her subordinates to get ready. Inside the Cloud Gate, behind Yunzhong Pass, the sound of killing could be heard. Countless elite steel cavalry were training their tactics here. Other than the cavalry charging, Feng Jixing also ordered Zhang Wei and Luo Yu to train the infantry of the Steel Blade Army. They were to use the sword and shield weapons to train them to master the Qingquan battle tactics. After all, this was Feng Jixing's style. But Feng Jixing did not know about the impending danger. He stood on the city wall and looked down at the soldiers who were training to charge. His face was full of worry. Your Highness, what's wrong? Beside him, the new commander of the Steel Blade Army, Qin Yong, asked. Nothing. Feng Jixing shook his head. Commander Qin Yong, how's the recruitment going? How's your selection going? I've already selected 50,000 young warriors. There are about 20,000 left. Do you want them, Your Highness? Yes. Feng Jixing rubbed his nose. After the battle at the Luo River estuary, there are not many left in the Imperial Guards. Now is the best time to replenish our forces. I want whatever you don't want. The more the better. Thank you, Your Highness. Qin Yong knelt on one knee. Feng Jixing was giving him the first pick of the new soldiers. He was thinking too highly of him. Get up. Feng Jixing's eyes flashed. We must strengthen our defenses. I feel that the Longji army is about to make a move. The war has not left us. Instead, it is getting closer. Is there any news from Tongyun Pass? How is Princess Shi? Tongyun Pass is very sturdy. They are defending it. They will watch over us and guard the two main exits. The Longji army can only move around in Yunzhong province. That's good. Keep in touch. Don't worry. We have already recruited close to 500 Warhawk scouts from Lanyan City. Every important letter will be delivered by more than 20 Warhawk scouts from different routes and heights. There won't be any mistakes. Okay. In the evening, a Warhawk scout landed lightly on the eagle's nest on the city wall. He quickly landed and rushed into the commander's residence. Urgent report. Urgent report. Feng Jixing, who was eating, put down his chopsticks and stood up. Come in. After the two Imperial Guards handed over their weapons, the Warhawk scout walked in and said respectfully, Your Highness Prince Exin, this subordinate just received the news from the brothers who were hiding in Muyu City. This afternoon, the Longji Corps killed nearly 10,000 soldiers and threw their corpses into the Rice River. These soldiers were all infected with the plague. It seems that the Longji Corps is planning to use the plague to defeat us. Is the news accurate? I guarantee it with my life. Zhang Wei, who was at the side of the table, slammed his palm on the table. The impact sent steamed buns flying. Damn that Tianji bastard. He is really ruthless. Does he want all of them to die from the plague? Feng Jixing closed his eyes in pain. Are there any other water sources besides the Rice River? No. Luo Yu said. Then dig up the underground water and use the water from the well. Feng Jixing said indifferently. Order the Spirit Fire Department to stop using the water from the Rice River. No one is allowed to use the water from the Rice River. In addition, the Spirit Fire Department will immediately send people to the west to collect the underground water from the villages 10 li away from the Rice River. Send war chariots to help transport the water. Luo Yu frowned. Your Highness, these corpses will float over soon. The Cloud Gate won't be able to stop them. What should we do? Should we send ships to collect the corpses and bury them? No need. The owner of the Rice River will eat these corpses. I'm only worried that the water will be infected. Yes, I understand. Luo Yu smiled. The frost-armored horned dragons lived in the Cloud province of the Rice River. They had been starving for a long time. Now that there were corpses floating on the water, they would naturally become their food. However, what made Feng Jixing's heart turn cold was that Fang Lan was too ruthless. He actually gave the order to kill close to 10,000 soldiers. What kind of cruel and ruthless commander would do such a thing? Chapter 891. Phew. With a light breath, Lin Muyu woke up in the mountain. The cultivation just now was like a dream. She dreamed that she stepped into the sky and saw the person she wanted to see. Looking around her, she saw that the rocks under her feet had been crushed by the power of the invisible elephant spell, and the divine power in her body had become more abundant. 10,000 elephants, listen to my command. With a low shout, wheels flew up around her. In the blink of an eye, 100 elephant wheels gathered together, which was the symbol of the 100-elephant demon-slaying realm. Go. Her arm trembled slightly. She had to use her power, so she punched the mountain next to her. The earth trembled and the entire mountain first buzzed, then began to collapse. This simple punch had actually turned the huge mountain into a pile of rubble. Was this the power of a god? A faint smile appeared on Lin Muyu's face. His breathing became longer and longer, and as he breathed, waves of energy surged through his body, reaching a total of 49 stages. In a short month, he had cultivated the formless elephant tactic, tempered his godhead, and even absorbed the 7 demonic beast king grade demonic spirit stones that Sikong Yao had given him, allowing him to advance by leaps and bounds into the 49th stage of the heavenly dwelling realm. With this speed there was probably no one else. But at this moment, Lin Muyu suddenly felt a sense of emptiness in her body, and she fell to her knees. Descendant. Scholar Ling, who was in the air, shouted. What's wrong with me? Lin Muyu looked at her trembling hands and said, I seem to have lost all my power. This is the backfire of the recovery period. Your body was originally unable to withstand such a strong divine power, but now that you have forcefully recovered to this realm, your body will feel uncomfortable. However, this won't last for too long. At most, it will only last for a day. This subordinate and the Beaming King will guard the successor here. Don't worry, the successor will only be able to completely control her current power after a day. In addition, the recovery period has already ended. It's over? Lin Muyu was a little disappointed. But 49-level Grotto Heavens was enough. Together with the power of the invisible elephant spell, she might be able to fight against an emperor god like Baiming Huan. Who knew? If they didn't try, no one could say for sure. Thus, he spread his arms and laid down on the grass and gravel. An unprecedented sense of comfort came from his body. At this moment he felt like a mortal without any worries. When he lost his power, his responsibilities also disappeared. Everything in this world had nothing to do with him. He fell into a deep sleep. By the time she opened her eyes again, it was already noon the next day. The surrounding heaven and earth spiritual energy was continuously gathering into her body. The surging supreme divine force had already formed a river in her blood vessels. The energy was rapidly flowing into her body, and it also let Lin Muyu know that her holiday was over. Do-do-do, the sound of hooves could be heard from the foot of the mountain. A group of cavalrymen in white robes came up the mountain. They were the royal guards, and the person they were protecting was none other than Wei Chou. Your Highness, something has happened. Wei Chou flew over and said, the Tianji Empire has gathered at least 1,000 warships on the East Sea. I'm afraid the war is about to begin. It seems that Baiming Huan plans to attack from the East Sea, bypassing the Luo River Estuary Fortress, and directly attack the eastern capital, Winter Frost City. Bypassing the Luo River Estuary? Yes, this subordinate thinks so. Did the Eagle Scouts find out the specific situation? Are they sure that their warships are full of soldiers? The Eagle Scouts dare not fly too close, or they will be easily killed by the Dragon Knights. So they can't see everything clearly. But, why do you ask? Lin Muyu stood up, rubbed her slightly sore shoulders and said, Baiming Huan has already begun to put Gong Xiangming in an important position. If Gong Xiangming is the commander of this attack, it won't be so simple. What if their warships are just merchants used as a distraction? If we mobilize the guards at the Luo River Estuary to protect the eastern capital, the Luo River Estuary will be breached, and the gateway to Lingdong will be gone. Wei Chou felt a chill in his heart. No way? Using 1,000 ships as a decoy, isn't this a little too much? Gong Xiangming is a strong opponent. For someone like him, as long as he can win, it's not too much to do anything. Lin Muyu began to pack and said, I'll get ready. Tonight I'm going to spy on their fleet. You go and tell the guards at the Luo River Estuary not to act rashly. Without my order, no one is allowed to leave their post. Yes. Wei Chou gently cupped his fists and then asked, Your Highness, are you really going to the East Sea by yourself? It's too dangerous. Bring the 4 Masters of White Leaves. No need. Lin Muyu smiled. The 4 Masters of White Leaves are guarding the Luo River Estuary Fortress. They are needed there more. I'll go alone. But, Wei Chou still wanted to say something, but Ling Shuxing smiled and said, Duke Wei, don't worry. My successor's strength is no longer the same as before. I believe even the Beaming King is not my successor's match. Moreover, I have the divine book of the law of space here. Even if my successor encounters danger, she will be able to escape unscathed. Alright then, you must be careful. Late at night, the waves on the East Sea were calm. This was a rare good weather. The 1-meter-tall waves constantly slapped against the ship, making the sound of the tide. It actually gave off a sense of tranquility. In the sky, a black figure slowly approached. It was like a black bat soaring above the sea. Moreover, there was no aura at all, making it impossible for people to capture it. Lin Muyu was wearing a set of black armor, and even her robe was black. This was the special attire of the Qin Empire for 500 people. It was very suitable. His gaze swept across the warships. There were nearly 100 warships in front of him, and each of them only had about 50 people. Moreover, most of them were merchants with weak auras. They were obviously not real warships. He flew past them and continued to investigate the ships at the back. The moonlight shone on the deck. It was actually densely packed with soldiers. All of them were leaning against the deck while hugging their weapons. Some of them were even snoring thunderously. How is this possible? Lin Muyu was secretly shocked. The warships at the front were fake, but the ones at the back were real. Could it be that the flowing spirit army had split up? That's not right. The lights of the warships at the back were dimmer. Let's look again. He patiently flew past the sky. In the middle were 500 warships. Almost all of them were filled with the soldiers of the flowing spirit army. There were about 70 to 80,000 soldiers. There were another 500 warships at the back. Lin Muyu was interested to see who were the people on the 500 warships. But just as he passed through the air, his spiritual mind was suddenly filled with all kinds of auras. There was a very dense interweaving of auras coming from the dim starlight on the sea in front of him. There were a lot of strong people there. He hurriedly circulated the spiritual pulse art to its peak state. When he flew across the sky, he saw a group of people in blood-red robes standing on a warship. They were silent and held weapons in their hands. Their gazes were indifferent as they looked forward. Many of them had faint dark force circulating around them. Some were true chi while others were battle chi. The strength of each one was different. The hundreds of people on the whole ship were all practitioners. The lowest cultivation was at the human realm. They were far from being comparable to ordinary soldiers. Lin Muyu frowned and carefully looked at the flag hanging on the bow of the ship. In addition to the flag of the Qingji Empire, there was also a blood-red flag with a golden robe pattern embroidered on it, just like the clothes worn by those people. The Blood Clothing Sect. A name jumped into Lin Muyu's mind. Liu Bai had mentioned this name before. There were a total of 5 saint sects in the Heavenpole continent, including the Qingji sect, the Qinjua sect, and so on. There were also 7 king sects, including the Blood Clothing sect. In addition, there were 59 heaven sects and more than 3,000 earth sects. It was very complicated. But the appearance of the Blood Clothing sect shocked Lin Muyu. Could it be that the Qingji Empire had mobilized the forces of all the major sects to invade the Shattered Cauldron world? It seemed that it was true. This was the reality that Lin Muyu was unwilling to admit but had to face. The number of warships behind was getting denser. In addition to the Blood Clothing sect, he saw a new king sect, the Eternal Night sect. The people of the Eternal Night sect were all wearing black robes. Their strength could not be underestimated. He could even faintly perceive a few traces of the aura that belonged to gods. As for the experts with the king's fighting flame, there were countless, at least 200 of them. Perhaps this was the real strength of the Qingji Empire. Unfortunately, Liu Bai and Si Kongyao were too concentrated on investigating the information in the Darkstone Empire, and they actually didn't notice that these king sects, heaven sects, and earth sects had turned out in full force. At this moment, Lin Muyu suddenly thought of something. There was a warship in front of them with a fluttering commander's flag. Yes, it was Bai Minghuan's warship. Swish. It moved with the wind and stuck to the edge of the warship like a falling leaf. The soldiers on the deck did not notice the appearance of Lin Muyu at all. When he stuck to the edge of the ship, he quickly opened the spiritual pulse technique and listened in the cabin. As expected, there was a faint smell of wine in the cabin. Someone was holding a banquet, and Bai Minghuan and a few other auras were all at the immortal realm. It seemed that the leaders of the Eternal Night sect and the Blood Clothing sect were all here. I, Bai Minghuan, am very grateful that all the leaders have come here for the Empire. Come, let's have a drink. As long as we can conquer Winterfrost City, it will be a great achievement for all of you. The Qingji Empire will not let you down. Marshal, you are too kind. It was an old voice. It's our honor to serve the Empire. This time, our 2 king sects, 11 heaven sects, and nearly 100 earth sects have gathered 100,000 people to form the Godly Cloak Army. I believe that we'll be invincible. How could a mere Winterfrost City possibly stand a chance against us? That is. Gong Xiangming's voice came. Thank you for your trust, sect leader. As long as we can conquer the Shattered Cauldron realm, the Blood Clothing sect and the Eternal Night sect can establish their own sects there. The Empire will also recognize your status as king sects. Then, I will thank Marshal and Military Advisor first. Chapter 892. What a pity. The leader of the Eternal Night sect said, Lord Sikong Ming of the Celestial Ji sect refused the Empire's order. None of the 40,000 disciples of the Celestial Ji sect is willing to serve the Empire. What a pity. Sikong Ming. Bai Ming Huan did not hide the anger in his voice at all as he said, "A long journey tests a horse's stamina, and time reveals a man's heart. This time I have seen everything clearly. Xikong Ming only wants his own fame and position. He does not worry about the survival of the empire at all. Everyone please rest assured. This time His Majesty must have seen everything. He knows who is more loyal." "Ah, you're right, General. Come, let's have another drink." Lin Muyu remained silent. She raised her head and looked into the distance. The vast sea was filled with numerous warships. The Divine Garment Army gathered by the Qinji Empire's major sects, heavenly sects and earth sects was definitely a fatal blow to the Shattered Cauldron realm. She couldn't just sit back and watch them approach the Empire's territory. At this speed, they would arrive at the Blue Wind Harbor at noon tomorrow at the latest. Thinking up to this point, Lin Muyu could no longer remain calm. He released his grip on the deck and glided across the surface of the sea like a bird. In the blink of an eye, he arrived in the sky and activated his supreme god force. His eyes were instantly covered with a layer of golden light. This was the transformation of the divine form. Both his palms were facing the surface of the sea, and the power of the shapeless elephant surged out. "Everything in the world, listen to my command." With a low roar, his power had already penetrated deep into the sea. This strike would borrow the power of the ocean from all the phenomena in the world. Borrow the power. Buzz, 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 the seawater began to roar and spin. The seawater in the depths of the sea rapidly spun in all directions, quickly forming a huge whirlpool in the center. This was a powerful force. In an instant, a basin with a radius of tens of miles was created on the calm surface of the sea, and the basin was nearly 1,000 meters deep. "Scatter!" Lin Muyu shouted, and the invisible elephant art's divine power rippled out in all directions. Many of the people on the warships had already run out, and they were all dumbfounded by the strange phenomenon around them. Very quickly they realized that they were sinking, and the result of sinking was a disaster, a tsunami. That's right, Lin Muyu wanted to borrow the power of the ocean to cause a catastrophe. "It's Lin Muyu." On the ship, Bai Ming Huan had already charged out with his sword. Seeing Lin Muyu in the air, he couldn't help but yell, "Everyone follow me to kill this thief." From all directions, powerful and endless tsunamis had already surged over. A disaster was inevitable. The warships at the edge of the sea hung upside down and were engulfed by the tsunami in the blink of an eye. The sound of the huge waves soared into the sky, completely covering the shouts, cries and roars in the sea. This was how the war of the gods was. Mortals were so weak and helpless, no different from ants. Swoosh, 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 beams of light flew up from the warships. Those who could fly would not just sit there and wait for death. At least 50 beams of light charged at Lin Muyu, led by Bai Ming Huan. "Give me your life, Lin Muyu." It was Lei Wen's roar. He held the muddy fire blade and urged the dragon to attack like lightning. The muddy fire blade turned into a beam of flame. Lin Muyu's expression changed. This Lei Wen was Si Kong Yao's uncle. She should have spared his life, but there was no time to think. Lei Wen was looking for death and no one else could be blamed. Swoosh. The muddy fire saber slashed through thin air, but a powerful aura quickly condensed in the air. Lei Wen hurriedly raised his head and saw Lin Muyu wielding the elephant wheel, sneering at him. Moving like lightning, Lin Muyu punched down heavily. 10 elephant punishes the sky. This attack not only contained the power of the elephant wheel, but also the power of the ocean. Good move. The opponent's power made Lei Wen's body tremble, but he actually laughed and raised the muddy fire blade to defend. Sometimes, knowing that death was coming made people less afraid and more crazy. Boom. The turbid fire blade was actually unable to withstand a single strike from the iron fist, and broke in half. Lin Muyu's elephant chakra fist also landed heavily on Lei Wen's body. Originally, the astral energy around his body was able to withstand it, but to Lei Wen's despair, Lin Muyu's fist was not simple at all. Apart from the sharp elephant chakra god force, there was actually an endless coldness, as though the energy of the entire deep sea was gathered in that fist. Spitting out a mouthful of blood, Lei Wen fell into the ocean along with his dragon. Before he even came into contact with the water, he had already breathed his last. A deity king of the 34th level grotto heaven was killed by a single punch from Lin Muyu. Bastard. Bai Ming Huan roared, and the scarlet palm hit Lin Muyu's back with a powerful god power. Lin Muyu had killed Lei Wen with all her strength, so she naturally could not dodge Bai Ming Huan's next attack. But she gathered all her divine power on her back, and the wall of the calabash broke out of her body, and with the help of the divine wall. Boom. Golden light splashed everywhere, and this palm attack made Lin Muyu's heart sink. Bai Ming Huan was an emperor god after all, and his scarlet palm art was so powerful that it was not something an ordinary immortal state warrior could compare with. However, Lin Muyu took advantage of the fall of the palm and raised her arms. Her ice origin sword was imbued with vast divine power as she slashed at one of the Blood Cloak sect cultivators. Chaos of all life. Not only did this sword strike slash open Qin Shi's body, it even tore Qin Shi's body into pieces, and it shocked the group of experts in the surroundings to the point of being extremely astounded. Behind her, Bai Ming Huan's palm came down from the sky. Lin Muyu quickly turned around, and crossed her arms in front of her chest to defend. Buzz. The scorching palm swept across, but it did not break Lin Muyu's god wall. Instead, it left a huge palm print on the sea behind her, and directly smashed a few Tianji Empire's battleships. Lin Muyu smiled disdainfully, and her body fell into the sea along with the power of the scarlet palm. Bai Ming Huan's body trembled. His two palm strikes with all his strength did not break through the opponent's god wall. How did Lin Muyu's cultivation advance to such a terrifying level in just 1 month? Puff. Lin Muyu's body fell into the sea and there was no news of her. Protect the battleships, don't panic, block the tsunami. Bai Ming Huan shouted in the sky. Immediately, the warriors of all the sects used their unique skills, and created many rock walls, light walls and flame walls. In the blink of an eye, they formed a huge protective circle, protecting the hundreds of battleships from the incoming tsunami. Boom, boom, boom. The huge waves crashed on the wall created by the warriors, but the power of heaven was unpredictable. Many of the warriors with lower cultivation were immediately injured and vomited blood. There was a price to pay to shake the power of heaven. Just as everyone was struggling to resist the tsunami and protect the battleships, suddenly beams of starlight appeared in the depths of the sea. What is that? The leader of the Blood Cloak sect asked, dumbfounded. Bai Ming Huan had a bad feeling and he hurriedly said, "Scatter, Lin Muyu is not gone yet." But it was too late. Boom, boom, boom. Beams of starlight roared out from the bottom of the sea, sinking and shattering the battleships on the sea. Not only did the stars destroy the battleships, but they could also kill people. In the blink of an eye, countless people had been killed by the star's transformation. Bastard! Bai Ming Huan roared, suddenly raised his arms, and the scarlet palm struck toward the deep sea like thunder. He roared, "Evaporate, you useless thing!" The sea was evaporating quickly. Bai Ming Huan's power was above Lin Muyu's, but there was nothing he could do. In the deep sea, the power of the scarlet palm spread out like a blood-red thread, devouring the flesh and water. Lin Muyu felt a chill in her heart. This Bai Ming Huan was indeed not easy to deal with. If they were to fight face to face, she might not be his match. Fortunately, there was no need to fight face to face. With less than 30% of his divine power left, he waved his hand and a shining dagger appeared. Activating the power of heaven and earth, he disappeared on the spot. Swish. When she reappeared, Lin Muyu was dozens of miles away on the sea. Looking from afar, the sea was not calm at all. Flames shot up into the sky, and the shockwave formed by the tsunami would soon reach here. Go. Flying close to the surface of the sea, she quickly left this dangerous place. At the same time, she closed her eyes and sent her spiritual sense to the Luo River estuary fortress far away. She found Wei Chao's aura and asked, "What's happening at the Luo River estuary?" Wei Chao was standing on the wall and said, "The commander of the Flowing Spirit Army, Custer, is gathering his troops, about 100,000 people. It looks like they want to attack our steel wall. Your Highness, what should we do?" "Retreat." Lin Muyu said, "Send the order to Winter Frost City. Give up the East capital. All the troops retreat to Cangnan province and rely on the steel wall there to defend." "What? Give up the East capital?" Wei Chou was shocked. "Why, Your Highness? The enemy's power is far above ours. They are attacking from the coast and the Luo River estuary at the same time. We can't defend it all. We can't let our soldiers die for nothing. Retreat, let the civilians go and keep our army intact. Then we will have a chance to rise again." "Why?" Wei Chou was still puzzled. "They have at least 200,000 troops on the sea, 100,000 of them are cultivators." Lin Muyu said concisely. This, Wei Chou felt a heart-wrenching pain. "I understand. I will do it immediately." Giving up Winter Frost City, which he had been operating for a long time, made Lin Muyu feel distressed. But what could he do? All the efforts he had done just now could only be regarded as a nuisance. He could not completely destroy this fleet. How many people could the tsunami and 7 luminaries kill? 10,000? 20,000? Or even 30,000? But there was nothing more. The main force of Bai Minghuan's troops was still there. Once they reached the shore, Winter Frost City would fall. At this time Lin Muyu was much more mature than before. He knew that some things should not be persisted. Holding Winter Frost City would only bring death and destruction. There was no hope. Chapter 893. At noon, a gentle breeze brushed past the steel wall. A figure slowly condensed into Lin Muyu's appearance. An honest aura enveloped the surroundings, making people feel reverence. Greetings, Your Highness. A group of guards and soldiers on the city wall knelt down. Dispense with the formalities. Lin Muyu looked to the south. An endless stream of carriages extended to the distant road. The more than 100,000 guards of the Luo River Estuary Fortress had already begun to retreat. However, there were a lot of provisions and they had to move some equipment from the Spiritual Fire Department and the Spiritual Medicine Department. What was worse was that the magic crystal cannons were very heavy, and they could not be left to the Tianji Empire. Therefore, moving them was a very troublesome matter. These magic crystal cannons could withstand high heat and were made of 100-year-old cold iron. They were quite expensive. The Qin clan had already wasted a lot of their national power in these battles. They really couldn't afford to squander any more. Otherwise they could just blow up all of them. Your Highness. Wei Chou walked over with a group of guards and said respectfully, the transfer will take at least 3 days. A large amount of resources will need to be transported into the Cangnan province. I request to lead the guards' camp to stay behind and bring up the rear. No need. I will bring up the rear with you. Lin Muyu muttered. I delayed them for a while on the East Sea. Adding the distance from the East Sea to Winter Frost City, they will need about 3 days to reach Winter Frost City. What we need to guard against now is Custer's troops in the north of the Luo River Estuary Fortress. I think so too. Therefore, I left 10,000 elite infantry cavalry in the Longdan army camp. How is Winter Frost City? His Highness Qin Yan has already ordered the evacuation. Many confidential maps, files, and decorations in Lingxi Palace need to be transferred. This is also a huge project. No problem. Send a letter to Yin and Fan Gong, ordering them to leave Winter Frost City within 2 days. They will be safe after entering the Cangnan province. Then send a letter to Dragon Slaying Pass and order Su Jiantao to transfer some troops to assist in the defense of the Cangnan province. Yes. When he looked to the north, the 100,000-strong Flowing Spirit Army was already getting restless. There were many eagles circling in the air. It seemed like they had already seen through everything that was happening at the Luo River Estuary. Lin Muyu turned around and saw that many soldiers were still dismantling the magic crystal cannons on the city wall. It would take half a day to transport all of them away. Lin Muyu couldn't help but frown. She gently raised her palm and shouted, Acatosaurus, come out. Roar. This time the Acatosaurus did not hesitate. It shook its head and rushed out of the alternate dimension. It was huge, almost an adult holy dragon. Go, help the soldiers move the magic crystal cannons. This was the order given by its master. Acatosaurus let out a wail. It had thought that it would have a great battle, but it didn't expect that it would only be summoned to carry bricks. In the distance, a huge dragon soared in the sky, repeatedly flapping its wings, moving a magic crystal cannon down from the city wall. It was Situ Sen, the only dragon knight in the Qin army. In the afternoon the sound of war drums came from afar, dong dong dong, very dense. But the Qin army in the Luo River Estuary Fortress was very few, only some transport soldiers and 10,000 infantry and cavalry in the Longdan army camp. If they really fought, it would be easy for the enemy to destroy the Longdan army camp. Wei Chou squinted his eyes. How do we delay? Lin Muyu smiled. What are you afraid of? Bai Minghuan and the experts of the King's sect and the Heavenly sect are still in the East Sea. Custer doesn't have any experts in his hands, and there are less than 10 dragon knights. I and the 4 masters of white leaves will delay them. No, I'll go with you. Wei Chou pulled out the demon-devouring bow and smiled. Your Highness, don't forget that Wei Chou is also at the immortal state now, although his cultivation is still low. Okay, then let's go together. An hour later, the sound of war drums became more and more intense. Tens of thousands of beast riders and heavy cavalry of the Flowing Spirit Army were already less than 500 meters away from the Luo River Estuary Fortress. Swoosh, 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 figures suddenly descended from the sky. It was Lin Muyu and the other 5, but all of them were immortal state warriors. Even the weakest, Wei Chou, was already at the 10th heaven. Clang. Lin Muyu pulled out the Ice Origin sword with a calm smile on her face. Ling Shu waved his paper fan and smiled. Successor, let the Demon King attack first. This fellow's attack is fierce, and he has the cultivation of a god emperor. His skin is thick, and the weapons used by the ordinary people of the Flowing Spirit Army will definitely not be able to hurt the Demon King's body. Let's just hold the formation together. Okay. Lin Muyu looked at the Demon King and said, "You have to be careful." The Demon King didn't like to talk much and only roared in response. After which, his body was covered with golden divine walls and blood-colored gales. He slowly crawled on the ground and roared like a wild beast. In the next moment, his enormous figure shot out like lightning. He brought along a cloud of dust and a crazy storm as he rapidly broke into the enemy's battle formation. How could the soldiers of the Flowing Harmony Army expect the enemy to be so valiant? One by one, they couldn't help but be blown away like fallen leaves in the wind. Motherf ****. In the depths of the formation, the commander of the Flowing Spirit Army, Castor, raised his sword and shouted, "Tiger Leopard Cavalry and Dragon Riders, attack together. Archers, aim and shoot. These Qin army bandits are too arrogant. Do they think that they can block my 150,000 troops with just a few people?" The Tiger Leopard Cavalry roared as they charged out from the battle formation. Each of them took out the spears on their backs and started to throw them. The metal blades fell around the Demon King like rain and made clanking sounds. Although the Demon King was strong, it couldn't fight against 100,000 people alone. It was only a matter of time before it died from exhaustion. The Dragon Knights in the sky also started to fall. Go. Under Lin Muyu's command, Wu Tong and Jing Jian had already waved their arms and fought with a few dragon riders. As for Wei Chou, he was shooting arrows from afar. Almost every arrow could take the life of a Tiger Leopard Cavalry. In terms of killing power, Wei Chou was indeed one of the best in the Longdan army camp. In the air, two dragon riders stabbed their spears at the same time. The spears gathered two types of divine power, one ice and one fire, and rushed towards Lin Muyu like two spiraling storms. Good move. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. She used the divine power in her eyes and activated the formless elephant art. She raised her left hand lightly and used the earth to look straight at the sky. A powerful aura rushed towards the two dragon riders. Ping pong. The dragon spears were rebounded. The two dragon riders didn't even know what had happened. They didn't know what had blocked their attacks. The difference in their realm was too big. They couldn't even see the essence of Lin Muyu's attack. Roar roar. The two dragon riders roared and spat out dragon flames. Lin Muyu swept her long sword horizontally, using her sword aura to shatter the dragon flames. After the dragon flames dissipated, a furious holy dragon appeared behind her. It was the crimson crystal dragon that had just returned from carrying bricks. Seeing its master being surrounded, the crimson crystal dragon was indescribably enraged. Its head in the form of an eastern mystical dragon slowly turned around, shaking slightly. It let out a mighty roar, displaying the majesty of the King of Dragons. Roar roar. The two thunder dragons under the Dragon Knight instantly lost their momentum. In front of the red crystal dragon, their majesty was like a cat facing a tiger. In fact, at this moment, even the Dragon Knight's Dragon Imperial Battle Spin could not continue to operate. Kill them, Acatosaurus. Under Lin Muyu's command, Acatosaurus immediately pounced forward and pierced its claws into the neck of one of the thunder dragons. It opened its mouth and bit off a huge piece of dragon meat. Lin Muyu took the opportunity to stand on the dragon's head. She slashed her sword at the dragon rider's dragon spear. When the dragon spear flew out of his hand, Lin Muyu had already opened his palm. Heaven and earth, heed my command. An elephant will flew out and smashed the dragon rider's chest. Following that, it imprinted on the Flowing Spirit Army behind him and turned dozens of soldiers into a pile of blood and flesh. Lin Muyu raised her hand and grabbed the scattered godhood. After all, it was a mortal godhood. After putting it into her pocket, Lin Muyu immediately rushed toward another dragon rider. However, he ran very fast and in the blink of an eye, only his figure was left on the giant dragon. On the ground, the tiger leopard riders and the wolf riders charged toward Lin Muyu. The soldiers of the Qinji Empire were proficient in mounted archery. One after another, arrows flew toward Lin Muyu, forcing her to take out the wall of the gourd to defend herself. After all, the divine wall would consume her essence qi. She couldn't let her opponent attack the divine wall for a long time. Otherwise, even a god would be bitten to death by ants like an elephant. Boom boom boom. Shock waves exploded in the crowd. The strength of the ice and fire duo was indeed extraordinary. Wei Chao's arrows shuttled through the crowd, preventing Castor, a commander-level warlord, from advancing. He could only stay at the back of the crowd. Buzz. The paper fan in Ling Shuxing's hand suddenly shone brightly. Icy air flowed around it. It was a divine book artifact embryo, and it was a middle-grade frost divine book. Have a look at my divine book. Scholar Ling let out a loud roar, and the sky was filled with gloomy clouds. In the blink of an eye, snowflakes began to fall, and the temperature on the ground suddenly dropped. Icicles rained down from the sky, piercing the tiger leopard cavalry, wolf cavalry, archers and heavy cavalry into a pile of flesh and blood. The power of the divine book was truly extraordinary, and in the blink of an eye, it had killed nearly 5,000 people. Unfortunately, Ling Shuxing could only write one divine book every half a month. Otherwise he could really turn the tables. However, it was enough. At least it was enough for now. Retreat, retreat. Castor finally couldn't help but order. If they continued to fight, the price would be too high. The opponents were 5 divine kings and 1 ultimate god. The deterrent force was too strong. On the empty ground there was a dense pile of corpses. Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, and the 4 absolutes of white leaves stood in the field of corpses with indifferent eyes. The retreat of the Flowing Silence army was only temporary. They had lost close to 10,000 people in this battle, but the 5 of them had also used up a lot of their divine power. Lin Muyu was fine. Her supremacy would be able to replenish all her divine power in 4 to 6 hours. However, the rest would probably need at least 2 days to recover to their peak condition. They couldn't fight for a long time. If the Flowing Silence army came again, they had to retreat. Otherwise they would die. Chapter 894. All the way until the evening, the Flowing Spirit army was still stationed in the distance. At midnight, in the distant starry sky, they were burying a pot and cooking rice. On the city wall, Wei Chou rubbed his nose and said, "When they are full, I am afraid they will come for us again. What should we do? We cannot fight them head-on in the next battle. Let's go, we are ready to leave." Lin Muyu looked into the distance. The last batch of magic crystal cannons had been transported away, and the 10,000 infantry in the Longdan army camp were also cooking. Everyone was waiting to finish their meal. Situ Sin caressed the dragon's head and looked at the wall that was full of holes and marks of blades and axes. He said, "We spent 500 million Jining coins to build this wall, are we really going to give it to the bandits?" Situ Shue's eyes also turned red. "Your Highness, once we leave, I'm afraid that millions of people in the Lingdong province will become destitute and homeless. The people of the Tianji Empire are all hypocrites, they don't care about the lives of the people at all. Instead, they will go around capturing people and forcing them to do hard labor, imposing taxes and levies to fill up their armies." "I know." Lin Muyu comforted the army, "Our departure is only temporary. The wall at the Luo River estuary will return to the Empire sooner or later. We will also stand here again one day." "We will." Situ Sin said, "What does your Highness plan to do next?" "Protect the supplies and store all our forces in the steel wall on the edge of the Daojiang River in Sangnan Province. Just like how we fought against the demon race, let's fight against the Tianji Empire. Let's give the Lingdong province to the Tianji Empire. I'd like to see how long Baiming Huan can stretch the battle line. The longer the battle line, the worse I can make him die." "Yes, this subordinate understands." At this moment, a letter from Yushu flew over. Lin Muyu opened it and glanced at it. Yushu came from Winter Frost City, Suyu. Her handwriting was graceful and Suyu's handwriting was very similar to Qin Yin's, which always made Lin Muyu feel deep emotions. Yushu also informed Lin Muyu that the majority of the army had already left Winter Frost City. Only the military supply team was left to transport the large equipment, but there should be enough time. Peng peng peng, the sound of cannons came from afar. They were inferior cannons made from flammable trees. They had little power and could only be used as signal cannons. At this moment, the sound of cannons meant that Castor had ordered to attack the city again. "Pass down my order, open all the gates of the city," Lin Muyu ordered. Wei Chou was stunned. "What? Isn't this opening the door to a thief?" "Listen to my orders, pass them down." "Yes." When all the city gates were opened, the army of the Tianji Empire stopped far away. They stopped about 1,000 meters away from the city. Their flags were swaying and no one knew what they were doing. Sidu Shui couldn't help but laugh. Your Highness is indeed wise. The Flowing Spirit Army must be worried that we will bury the magic crystal cannons in the city and wipe them out, so Castor won't let them enter the city. That's right. This is called the empty city stratagem. Maybe we can buy some time for our military supply team. We will just guard here. Yes. Sure enough, just as Lin Muyu had said, Castor's troops stationed outside the city didn't make any movements throughout the night. In the wee hours of the next day, Castor was cooking outside the city with smoke rising from the kitchen. This time, Castor wouldn't hesitate any longer. After the meal, he sent out a small group of rangers to scout the area. Wei Chou immediately drew his longbow. His shooting range was very long. After activating the power of the ghost god, he could achieve the accuracy of 100 shots within 500 meters. He could shoot one after another, leaving the opponent helpless. When the sun rose, the military supply team inside the city had already disappeared without a trace. Castor's patience was almost worn out. Lin Muyu looked at the restless army in the distance and couldn't help but laugh. Alright, we should go too. Order the infantry and cavalry of the Longdan army camp to retreat slowly. Don't mess up the formation. We will go to Winterfrost City first and restock before going to Cangnan Province. Yes. The 10,000 infantry and cavalry of the Longdan army camp left quickly, leaving behind an empty city. However, Castor still waited until noon before ordering the army to enter the city. After entering the city, he realized that it was empty. Castor was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He pointed to the sky and said angrily, Lin Muyu, I swear I will chop off your head and sacrifice it to the flag. Along the way there were scattered civilians everywhere. Many of them had already heard the news that the steel wall had been breached. When they saw the Longdan army camp carrying the flag of the Qin army, many of them didn't even dare to step forward and speak, fearing that this army was from the Tianji Empire. Lingdong province quickly fell and everyone felt insecure. They no longer felt safe. When night fell, they arrived at Winterfrost City. It had also become an empty city. The temporary prosperity was like a dream, but now it had returned to its original state. There are still people in the food camp. They will leave after providing us with supplies, Wei Chou said. Yes, don't enter the city. Take the food and leave. Yes, Your Highness. Lin Muyu rode on treading snow and stood in front of the three armies. He looked up at the sky. It was a starless night and it was pitch black. The sound of the wind came from the top of the pitch-black city wall. It was as if he saw the scene from 8 years ago, when the Yangwei army was destroyed in Winterfrost City. It was also at that time that the city wall was filled with the skulls of the Empire soldiers. Were those heroic souls resting in peace now? He couldn't help but sigh. Your Highness, what's wrong? Sidu Shui asked softly. Lin Muyu shook her head and said, Nothing. I just suddenly feel so useless. I can't even protect the city, not to mention the people I love. Sidu Shui faintly smiled. Your Highness is thinking too much. Although you are a god, in the end you are still made of flesh and blood. Moreover, you are facing an even more powerful opponent. Being able to achieve what you have today is already very difficult. If this continent were to have a different ruler, and if another person were to become the king of Qin, I'm afraid that the great Qin Empire would already be a thing of the past. Maybe, Lin Muyu clenched her fists and said, Well, let's stop talking. Ask everyone to leave as soon as they finish their supplies. Maybe Custer will send the Tiger Leopard cavalry to chase us. Once we are caught, it will be difficult to leave. We must leave Winterfrost City within 2 hours. Yes. Traveling at full speed in the middle of the night, the infantry and cavalry of the Longdan army camp were marching at full speed, but the infantry's physical strength could not keep up. Therefore, the cavalry dismounted and the infantry mounted. They took turns to run, and they traveled nearly 100 miles in one night. In the early morning of the next day before dawn, the army came to a ravine. Where is this? Lin Muyu looked around blankly. Situ Shui unfolded the map, and Wei Chou held a torch to illuminate the area. Your Highness, this place is marked as Yellow Flower Mountain on the map. It is 300 miles away from the border of Cangnan Province. We are moving too slowly. Where are our supplies? They are probably behind us. We have lost contact with them. Lin Muyu frowned. The road was slippery at night, and it was indeed difficult to contact the supply army. However, it was impossible without the supply army. If they gave the magic crystal cannons to the Tianji Empire, then the Tianji Empire would use the magic crystal cannons against the steel wall. Then the steel wall of Cangnan Province would be useless, and all their efforts would be in vain. No, we can't do this. Send a letter and order the rest of the troops of the Longdan Army Camp, Fan Gong's Godly Might Battalion, and Su Yu's Zither Dragon Army to come back and protect the supply army. We must protect all the supplies. Yes, I will do it right now. A few minutes later, dozens of messenger birds flew out, along with some Warhawk scouts. However, at this moment, there was an explosion not far away, and a purple mushroom cloud rose into the sky. A few seconds later, the shockwave formed a storm that swept into the ravine. It's the magic crystal cannons. Where? What's going on? Lin Muyu asked loudly. It's on the mountain. Wei Chou narrowed his eyes. I am afraid that one of our supply troops with the magic crystal cannons encountered the army of the Qingji Empire or bandits. Otherwise it would be impossible. The safety device of the magic crystal cannons is very thorough. It is impossible for them to misfire. All cavalries, get on your horses and follow me to have a look. Yes. Nearly 5,000 cavalries of the Longdan Army Camp quickly got on their horses and followed Lin Muyu to the hillside at lightning speed. In the distance, one after another, giant bugs were roaring in the sky, spraying the dragon flame on the ground. How could the Qin army on the ground withstand it? Each and every one of them was howling miserably. This army was a team of the state-guarding army. There were about 2,000 of them, but their opponent was the Dragon Knights of the Qingji Empire. Oh. In addition to the Dragon Knights, there were also some people on the ground who were wielding weapons and waving combat energy. They were wearing blood-red battle suits. They were the Godly Cloak army of the Blood Cloak sect. How did they arrive in the territory of Winterfrost City so quickly? They must have come with the Dragon Knights overnight. Moreover, there were many God State warriors among them, so it was not strange for them to fly here. Gong Xiangming must have guessed that the Qin army would give up Winterfrost City, so he sent this army of Dragon Knights and God State warriors to intercept the supply of the Qin army first. Thinking of this, Lin Muyu felt so depressed that she almost vomited blood. Go. She leaped from the back of treading on snow, and the golden light of the invisible elephant spell shot into the sky. All things in the world, listen to my command. Lin Muyu raised her hand and struck with her palm, using the momentum of the wind. Boom, boom, boom. The wind became fierce, turning into bone-piercing wind blades sweeping in the air. Suddenly, several Dragon Knights rolled away. The experts of the Blood Cloak sect on the ground also looked over, and one of them shouted, "It's Lin Muyu, let's go." Lightning flashed continuously, and several God State warriors broke the void and fled. Under the control of Lin Muyu's momentum, more than a dozen people did not manage to escape, and they were killed by Wei Chou, Sidu Sen, the four masters of white leaves and the others. The ground was a mess, with countless dead bodies of the National Army lying on the ground, and the magic crystal cannons were also broken in half. Several injured soldiers knelt on the ground and cried loudly, "Your Highness, our commander died for the country." Chapter 895. This was only one troop that had been attacked, but it also meant that there would be other troops that would be attacked by the Godly Clothing Army that night. It would not be just this one. Lin Muyu felt a chill down her spine. Gong Xiangming seemed to have predicted that she would retreat. How did he do it? "Your Highness, what should we do?" Wei Chou was a little confused. He stood in the pool of blood with the demon-devouring bow. "We can't go to Cangnan province directly." Lin Muyu's voice was very soft. She said, "We can't let the other troops be attacked. Listen to my command. Send out all the scouts. The rest of you, follow me to the main road and cover the troops retreating from Winterfrost City." "Yes, I will do it right now." It was not until the early hours of the morning that Lin Muyu's 10,000 infantry and cavalry killed two more troops of the Godly Clothing Army that came to attack them. However, there were too many people returning from Winterfrost City to Cangnan province. Many troops along the way were attacked, and it was not just the army. Some caravans were also attacked by the Godly Clothing Army. Treading Snow kept snorting. It was tired after a night of running. If Treading Snow was like this, the other warhorses were even more so. Some of the warhorses were even foaming at the mouth. They had to rest for a while or the entire team would collapse. At this time it started to rain. It was the rain of early summer. Situ Shui held up a green oil paper umbrella and stood beside Lin Muyu to shield her from the rain. However, Lin Muyu gently pushed her hand away and smiled bitterly. She said, "Ah Shui, there is no need." "Thank you. Let's move now." "Move." Situ Shui blinked her big eyes. "Move to where?" "Everyone is tired. Let's go to the nearby village to rest for a while. Feed the horses and get some food." Otherwise, I am afraid many people will not be able to hold on. Yes, yes. The rain was getting heavier, drenching everyone's armor. However, no one wanted to take shelter from the rain. They just moved forward in the muddy water, maintaining their formation. This was the prestige of the Longdan army camp. If it were an ordinary local army, they would have long scattered to hide from the rain. Treading snow's hooves followed the potholes on the ground. Lin Muyu looked up at the sky. A powerful aura was rushing over. It was Ice Palm Wutong. Whoosh! Wutong landed in front of Lin Muyu with a wisp of icy air. He cupped his fists respectfully and said, "Successor, I have news from the direction of Winterfrost City. Not long after we left yesterday, Winterfrost City was occupied. The occupiers are a group of cavalry who call themselves the Divine Cloth Army. There are about 30,000 of them." 30,000 cavalrymen? Lin Muyu frowned. Do they have any other plans? Yes. Wu Tong said, "I have found out that the commander of the Flowing Silence Army, Castor, has also left the Luo River Estuary Fortress with the fastest cavalry and heavy cavalry. They have gathered with the cavalry of the Divine Cloth Army in Winterfrost City. They have about 100,000 cavalrymen now. 2 hours ago, a large number of cavalrymen left Winterfrost City and are rushing here." What did you say? They are rushing here? Yes. Lin Muyu frowned and did not say anything else. Wei Chou said in a low voice, "Your Highness, what do you think Gong Xiangming is trying to do?" This was the last thing Lin Muyu wanted to guess. Gong Xiangming seemed to know everything. Every attack was aimed at her weakest point. Lin Muyu clenched her fists and said, "I am afraid we cannot go to Tsangnan Province." What? Situ Sen and Situ Shui asked in shock. Because Gong Xiangming does not want us to go. Lin Muyu wiped the rainwater off her chin and said, "They have gathered all the cavalrymen in order to kill as many of us as possible before we reach Tsangnan Province. If we continue to go in the direction of Tsangnan Province, I am afraid there will not be many of us left by the time we reach the steel wall of Dao River. No, we cannot go to Tsangnan Province. There is only one way." Wei Chou squinted his eyes and said, "We will gather all the troops and supply teams and wait for them along the way. We will fight them to the death. This way we may be able to force them to retreat. Otherwise we will only die on the way. Our troops are too scattered to the point that we cannot fight back." No, there is another way. What way? Lin Muyu looked towards the south through the curtain of rain and said, "This place is closer to Qinling Mountains. Our cavalry and infantry will not be fast, but once we enter Qinling Mountains, this disadvantage will no longer exist. In the mountains, their pure cavalry and our mixed infantry and cavalry will move at the same speed. We will follow the White Mang Mountain all the way to Lingkong Province and directly reach Jianlong Pass and rendezvous with Su Jintao's troops. This is the only way." But Wei Chou frowned and said, "Jianlong Pass not only has Su Jintao, but also the exiled Angel Corps. I am afraid this may not be the best choice, Your Highness. It is better than sitting and waiting for death. Alright, there is no need to discuss anymore." Lin Muyu lightly waved her hand. "After entering the village, rest for 6 hours. Send out a letter and order all the surrounding imperial troops who could not retreat in time to gather and then go to Qinling Mountains together." Yes. Fortunately, this early summer rain stopped after a short while. After the sky cleared up, 2 troops gathered. One was Su Yu's Zither Dragon Army, and the other was Zhen Yifun's God Might Battalion. The Zither Dragon Army had 8,000 soldiers, while the God Might Battalion had 10,000. Together with Lin Muyu's 10,000 infantry and cavalry from the Longdan army camp and part of the Winterfrost City's garrison troops, they quickly gathered around this small village of 40,000 soldiers. After the troops set off, another group gathered along the way. It was another branch of the Longdan army camp. There were more than 7,000 soldiers, and the total number of soldiers was close to 50,000. Other than that, there were still many civilians who were unwilling to leave. However, many of them did not leave when they saw the Qin Emperor's flag and followed the troops from afar, unable to be driven away. Situ Sin came from the back of the troops with his sword in hand and said in a low voice, "Your Highness, the situation is not good. The civilians of Winterfrost City and the surrounding provinces are unwilling to leave. What should we do? If we bring them along, not only will they be too big of a target but they will also slow down our march. What should we do? How about I send out cavalry to disperse them?" No. Lin Muyu raised her hand in a hurry. "We can't be so unreasonable. If we really do that, we won't be able to return to Lingdong Province in the future. Then what should we do? Come with me to have a look." Yes. When Lin Muyu brought Wei Chou, Situ Sen and Su Yu to the back of the army, they saw a dense crowd of civilians following from afar. They had brought their families with them. Some were pushing wheelbarrows with rations and farming tools on them, while others were driving donkey carts. All of them looked tired and many of them were still soaked. No one had escaped the heavy rain just now. Emperor Qin. It's His Highness Emperor Qin. His Highness Emperor Qin is here. The civilians recognized Emperor Qin, and they quickly knelt on the ground to worship him. For the civilians, Emperor Qin was the only symbol of the Qin family. It was because of him that the Qin army had the courage to continue to contend with the powerful enemy. Lin Muyu got off the horse and said with a gentle look, "Dear elders, the 300,000 soldiers of the Empire of Tianji will be here in the blink of an eye. Lin Muyu is incompetent and I have few soldiers. I can't resist the powerful enemy, so I can only abandon Lingdong. You should run away on your own. Don't follow the army. I swear, as long as there is a chance, I will lead the army to kill our way back and recover our lost land." An old man stood up shakily with the help of a walking stick and said, "Your Highness, we have nowhere to go. Along the way there are not only thieves but also bandits and bullies in the mountains. If we don't follow the army, I'm afraid we can't escape death. Your Highness, no matter where you go, we are willing to follow you. Please don't abandon us." The rest of the people chimed in and some even began to wail loudly, their grief spreading everywhere. Lin Muyu frowned. He was not a hypocritical person. He did not know these civilians and had no connection with them. But he knew that if he refused such a request, the Qin family would lose the support of the people in Lingdong. At that time, it would be even more difficult for him to recover Lingdong. He thought for a while, then said in a clear voice, "You can follow me, but if you have a chance to live in a nearby village, don't hesitate. If you follow me, you will be homeless and miserable and suffer a lot. Moreover, our army doesn't have enough food, so I can't distribute it to you. I hope you can understand my difficulties. You can follow me, but the army of the empire can't be burdened by the civilians anymore. Otherwise, we won't even have the capital to make a comeback." "Yes, Your Highness, we all know that. Your Highness, we will never be a burden to the army. Rest assured, Your Highness." The civilians spoke with certainty. But in the evening, a group of beast cavalrymen of the Empire of Tianji appeared on the horizon, and the civilians fled in all directions. In the sky, a huge black eagle was circling. It was the wolf falcon of the Dragon Knights. Gong Xiangming must have found the main force of the Empire of Tianji. Wei Chou raised his hand and shot an arrow, killing the wolf falcon directly. But it seemed that there was nothing he could do. "They are here." Ling Shu descended from the sky and said, "At least 50,000 cavalrymen and almost 50 Dragon Knights. I also feel the aura of the God Emperor. Bai Ming Huan should be here as well." Wei Chou begged, "Your Highness, let's fight. We can't just hide like this." "No." Lin Muyu's voice was calm. "We don't have magic crystal cannons and we don't have too many devil heart arrows and white drill arrows. Plus, they have the elite troops of the godly Yi army. Not to mention our 50,000 soldiers, even the 100,000 elite soldiers of the Longdan army camp at their peak might not be able to defeat them. We can't fight, we can only retreat. Pass down my order. The whole army is to keep marching to the Qinling Mountains, and the 2,000 soldiers of the 3rd Battalion will stay behind to stop them." Wei Chou's voice trembled. "Your Highness, are you going to let the 2,000 brothers of the 3rd Battalion die?" Lin Muyu nodded but didn't deny it. Situ Sin stood at the side, stunned. After so many years, Lin Muyu had indeed changed. He was no longer as unyielding and intense, but he had also become more calm and steady. Although he had changed, he was more qualified to be the commander-in-chief of the 3 armies. Only such a person could turn the tide and reverse the situation. However, when Situ Shui saw Lin Muyu clenching his fists so tightly that his veins were bulging, and his fingertips almost pierced through himself, she couldn't help but feel a little distressed and said, "Your Highness, let my brother pass the order, okay?" Lin Muyu patted Taksha's head and said, "Continue to march at the speed of the army, don't stop." "Yes." Under the setting sun, a group of 2,000 infantrymen holding heavy shields and spears left the formation. Under the command of the battalion commander, they all smashed their shields to the ground, and spears pierced through the gaps between the shields. Pairs of eyes stared straight at the densely packed enemies in the distance, as if they had formed a steel wall in the open field. However, the steel wall was made of flesh and blood. Chapter 896. The sunlight was like blood, and the field was filled with shouts of killing. After a round of attacks from the Tiger Leopard Cavalry and the Dragon Riders, only half of the 2,000 soldiers of the 3rd Battalion were left. But miraculously, the formation did not move at all, nailing Baiming Huan's 60 to 70,000 soldiers to the ground like a wedge. No matter how the enemy attacked, it did not move at all. The sunlight fell on Gong Xiangming's face and he could not help but frown. Are these people really not afraid of death? What made them face death so calmly? Castor sneered. Even if they are not afraid of death, they can't escape death in the end, humph. Baiming Huan was wearing a general's armor and riding a Fergana horse. His face was cold as he said, Lin Muyu actually left such an army to die. Have you found out which army it is? General, it is Lin Muyu's Longdan army camp, a 2,000-strong army. A captaincy said with a fist salute. Ha! Baiming Huan couldn't help but laugh wildly. Lin Muyu is just as everyone says that he is the #1 divine general of the Broken Cauldron realm and the Great Qin, a rare kind general. But now, it seems that he also knows how to use this kind of despicable trick of sacrificing the rook to save the king. What a shameless man. Great. Come on, we need to be crueler. Send me a chariot to crush these ants. Wait. Gong Xiangming suddenly stopped him. What is it? Do you think I am wrong? Baiming Huan was a bit displeased. Gong Xiangming smiled. Marshal is right, but if we send out the war chariots to brutally kill these people who stayed behind to bring up the rear, wouldn't that make Lin Muyu look even more like a famous general? In my opinion, there is another way that might be better. What way? Don't send chariots. Let's send some wise men to persuade the remaining soldiers of the Longdan army camp to surrender. What do you think they will do when they see a chance to live? Surrender? Baiming Huan smiled. Gong Xiangming also clapped his hands and smiled. That's right. As long as we bestow them with kindness and raise their ranks, why would these people have to work for Lin Muyu? If we recruit Lin Muyu's subordinates and give them high positions and generous salaries, then do you think the world will still think that Lin Muyu is an invincible commander? His hypocritical image of being the #1 general will crumble on its own. Good, it really is a brilliant plan. Wonderful. Baiming Huan laughed loudly and said, Men, just as the military counselor said, send someone to summon these people from the Longdan army camp. If they are stubborn, then order the beast cavalry to crush them. Yes. Not long after, hundreds of scholars with brocades, food, and wine appeared in the battle formation. They carefully approached the remaining soldiers of the 3rd camp of the Longdan army camp under the protection of the Tiger Leopard Cavalry. One of them said loudly, Our General Baiming Huan is a kind man, and does not want to kill too many people. His order is that as long as you are willing to surrender, we will not kill you. Instead, we will raise your ranks by 3 ranks, and you will be promoted to the general of the 4 towns. What do you think? In the crowd filled with the smell of blood, a general whose arm had been chopped off sneered, spat out a mouthful of blood and said, Bring your mother here and make her my concubine, then I will surrender to you bandits. What did you say? The scholar was furious. The general raised his hand and threw the spear. Boom. The spear pierced through the scholar's throat. The training of the brave dragon battalion had always been strict. Everyone's battle prowess was very strong. Even if a battalion commander was injured, he would still be able to kill a scholar within 20 steps. There was no doubt about this. Murder. They are murdering. The group of scholars panicked and threw away the trays in their hands. Damn it. A 1,000-man commander of the Tiger Leopard Cavalry drew his sword angrily and said, A bunch of idiots who refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Don't leave a single one alive. Kill them all. Let these trash of the Courage Dragon Battalion have a taste of our might. The army charged forward, and the Beast Cavalry kept charging at the shield formation at the front. Both sides stabbed their weapons into each other's bodies, and the battle became more and more intense. But just when the Tiger Leopard Cavalry had surrounded the remaining 200 to 300 Longdan army camp soldiers, a blue light flashed. It was the detonation device of the magic crystal cannon. The Longdan army camp had already gotten this technology from Qianfeng. In the crowd, dozens of Longdan army camp soldiers were shielding a magic crystal cannon in the middle, and at least 10 of them were shining together. The commander laughed with blood all over his face. Come, let's go to hell together. Boom boom boom. 11 consecutive cannon blasts rang out. Purple mushroom clouds rose into the air, creating a blinding sight. This attack alone had killed at least 3,000 Tiger Leopard Cavalry. In fact, the dragon riders of the Tianji Empire had not even expected such a move. They had not even activated their dragon defense spiral, so how could they protect the beast riders on the ground? The purple light shone on everyone's faces, and Baiming Huan and the other generals were all stunned. Gong Xiangming's face was ashen, and his eyes were filled with confusion and anger. He murmured, "Lunatics, a bunch of lunatics. Lin Muyu's people are all lunatics, they are unreasonable." Baiming Huan gritted his teeth and said, "Counselor, do you still think it is necessary for them to surrender?" Gong Xiangming shook his head. He seemed to have recognized something. It was something that he lacked but Lin Muyu had. That was right. It was the charisma of a commander. There was probably no other general in the entire Tianji Empire who had this kind of charisma. Being able to make his soldiers face death with equanimity was a very precious quality of a commander. "There is no need," Gong Xiangming shook his head dispiritedly and said, "if we want the Shattered Cauldron world to become our territory, Lin Muyu must die. We cannot let this person live." "That's right." Baiming Huan raised his hand slightly and said, "Advance. Cavalry chase at full speed. Kill all the civilians along the way, and let them see the hypocrisy of Lin Muyu." In the distance, a mushroom cloud rose into the sky. Everyone knew that the entire 3rd Battalion had disappeared from the Longdan army camp. Lin Muyu, Weiqiu, Situ Sen and the others all felt heartache. "We will reach the Qinling Mountains at dawn tomorrow. Once we enter the pass we will be safe," Suer said. Zheng Yifan, who was riding on his warhorse, coughed violently a few times in the evening wind. He hadn't slept for 2 days and 2 nights, and his body couldn't withstand such a jolt. Even if he was a god he was still very old. "Father, are you all right?" Zhen Fang asked. "I'm fine." Zheng Yifan shook his head and said, "Your Highness, I'm afraid that Baiming Huan's cavalry will catch up again in less than 2 hours. What should we do? This time which team will be bringing up the rear?" This sentence was like a needle piercing her heart. Lin Muyu could not help but smile bitterly. "I really am not good at commanding troops. Why do you have to be so sarcastic, Lord Fan?" Zheng Yifan hurriedly said, "I misspoke, Your Highness, please forgive me. What I meant was, if Baiming Huan's cavalry comes again, how should we stop them?" "Don't worry, Scholar Ling has already done that." 2 hours later, the shock waves of the magic crystal cannons reverberated on the plains again. This time there were only 5 explosions, but there were still flames falling from the sky. It was the Heavenly Book. Ling Shu had released at least 3 heavenly books in an instant, and its power was astonishing. Whoosh! The air swirled, and Scholar Ling appeared a few meters away in the blink of an eye. He cupped his fists and said, "Successor, the mission is completed. We have successfully detonated the last 5 magic crystal cannons, and I have also used 3 heavenly books. Thank you for your hard work." Lin Muyu smiled lightly. "This way they will think that we have more magic crystal cannons lying in ambush along the way. I believe that Baiming Huan will not have the guts to march so quickly." "That's right. Hurry up, we must reach Tiger Subdue Pass before dawn." "Yes." As expected, it was a peaceful night. When the first light of dawn broke, the 50,000 men led by Lin Muyu could already see a towering pass in the Qinling Mountains. Tiger Subdue Pass, a pass that connected Lingnan and Sangnan Province. It was guarded by 8,000 elite soldiers sent by Su Jiantao. When the soldiers arrived at the pass, Weiqiu took the token and went to check. Not long after, the gates slowly opened and Lin Muyu ordered everyone to enter the pass. Looking up, the rock above Tiger Subdue Pass looked like a ferocious tiger entrenched in the Qinling Mountains. No wonder it was named Tiger Subdue Pass. In addition, the pass was filled with magic crystal cannons, which should be enough to stop Baiming Huan's cavalry in their tracks. Not only were there 50,000 elite soldiers entering the pass, but there were also close to 100,000 civilians. A few li south of Tiger Subdue Pass was the territory of the Soaring Sky Province, which was under the control of the Blackstone Empire. After a night's rest, they set off again. The rations in Tiger Subdue Pass could not sustain the consumption of so many people, so they could only take the risk and go to Dragon Slaying Pass. On the mountain road, there was an endless stream of troops, and looking from afar, the flag of the Blackstone Empire fluttered above the prefectural city in the distance of the Soaring Sky Province, causing the blood of Situ Sen, Weiqiu and the rest to boil uncontrollably. They had just fought with Baiming Huan's army, and very soon, they would have to face the Blackstone Empire's army. For safety's sake, the entire army slowly advanced through the dense forest. This time Lin Muyu was especially careful. At noon, Lin Muyu sent the 4 absolutes of white leaves to Sangnan Province. There were only 100,000 troops under Qin Yan's command on the steel wall of the Rice River Basin. Once Baiming Huan's main force attacked the city, Qin Yan would be isolated and without help. With the help of the 4 absolutes of white leaves, perhaps it would be better. The distance between Tiger Subdue Pass and Dragon Slaying Pass was close to 200 li. According to the speed of the mountain road, it would take about 5 or 6 days to arrive. This process made Lin Muyu very worried. If their whereabouts were exposed and they were targeted by the Blackstone Empire's army, then it would really be difficult. Chapter 897. To the west of Linghan City, the camps of the Blackstone Empire's Blue Flame Army and Sea Mountain Army stretched for dozens of miles. Banners were fluttering in the wind, and all kinds of cavalry were attacking, swords were dancing, and shouts were soaring into the sky. In the sky, dragon roars could be heard as a figure suddenly appeared above the central tent, attracting the attention of many Blackstone dragon riders. A black dragon and a red dragon approached quickly, and the dragon riders recognized them immediately. They put away their dragon spears and said respectfully, "It's General Baiming Huan." Baiming Huan was wearing the general's armor of the Tianji Empire. He nodded and said, "I have something important to see General Bailey Qin. Please lead me to him." "Yes, General. Please follow us." "Thank you." The 2 dragon knights surrounded and protected Baiming Huan as he descended to the ground, and the dense crowd of soldiers swiftly opened up a path as well. All of them looked at Baiming Huan with reverence on their faces. The #1 commander of the Tianji Empire was not someone that could be seen anywhere. This time Baiming Huan had come to the Darkstone Empire's campsite alone, so he must have an important matter. Otherwise he would not have been so abrupt. "General Baiming Huan is here to see you." The servant's voice was very loud. "Invite the general in." Inside the tent, Bailey Qin waved his hand and the door opened. Baiming Huan stepped in with a faint smile on his face. "General Bailey Qin, long time no see." "Yes, long time no see. General Baiming, come show the general a seat." After Baiming Huan sat down, Bailey Qin smiled. "I wonder what is the purpose of your visit this time." "General Bailey, why do you ask when you already know the answer?" Baiming Huan narrowed his eyes and said with a smile, 250,000 soldiers from the Tianji Empire have already entered the Lingdong province, and won the eastern capital, Winter Frost City, without any bloodshed. Now Lin Muyu of the Qin army has already led nearly 50,000 elite soldiers into the Lingkong province. They must be thinking of retreating to the Dragon Slaying Pass to take refuge. This is a golden opportunity, and it's like sending a fat piece of meat into the mouths of the Blackstone Empire's army. "General, you have scouts all over the north and south, don't tell me you don't know about this." Bailey Qin put down the dossier in his hand and said, "If not for the marshal, I really wouldn't have known that Lin Muyu's army has entered the Lingkong province." "Yes." Baiming Huan paused and said, "You and I are allies, so we should help each other." This time Lin Muyu was chased into the Lingkong province by the army of the Tianji Empire, so the rest will be handled by our allies. "But," Bailey Qin revealed an awkward expression and said, "Lin Muyu is a ferocious tiger." Subduing a ferocious tiger will result in the loss of too many brave warriors. Moreover, Lady Shi'in of the Angel Squad is guarding the Zhanlong Pass. She has already expressed her stance. No army from any country is allowed to pass through the Zhanlong Pass. "Oh." Baiming Huan smiled. "Do you think that General Bailey, an emperor god of the 87th heavens, would be afraid of a little battle angel like Sheen? Not fear but respect. All right, let's say that the marshal has already sent his army to the White Mang Mountain to intercept and kill Lin Muyu's army at the foot of the mountain, and he can completely annihilate Lin Muyu's army before he enters the Dragon Slaying Pass. This." Bailey Qin smiled faintly. "The Blue Flame Army and the Sea Mountain Army have been fighting many battles, and they are already exhausted. Moreover, we are now resting and recuperating. If we attack Lin Muyu's elite army at this time, I'm afraid we will suffer great losses." "You?" Baiming Huan clenched his teeth in hatred. Bailey Qin's attitude was very obvious. He was not willing to kill Lin Muyu himself. On one hand, Lin Muyu's strength was not to be underestimated, and on the other hand, Lin Muyu was the commander of the Qin army. If the Blackstone Empire killed Lin Muyu, then Feng Jixing, Tang Xiaoxi, Qin Yan, Su Jiantao, and the others would vent their hatred on the Blackstone Empire. At that time it would be really hard to accept. After all, the troops of the Blackstone Empire in the Broken Cauldron world were far less than the Tianji Empire. If they defeated Lin Muyu but lost a lot of troops, then they would soon be eliminated from this continent by the Tianji Empire. Bai Minghuan heavily placed the teacup on the table and said with an icy cold gaze, Marshal Bailey Qin, do you know that the Heavenly Jew Empire has already gathered an army of 800,000 to attack the Darkstone Empire? Your eastern territory has already lost over 20 cities, and in the blink of an eye, you're about to lose one of the 3 provinces. Don't tell me that Marshal doesn't think about this? What are you trying to say? Bailey Qin said coldly. Why don't we make a deal? Oh? What kind of deal? Marshal, immediately send troops to destroy Lin Muyu's troops for the Tianji Empire, and I will immediately send a letter to Tianji City, asking His Majesty to send troops to reinforce the Blackstone Empire, and to contain the powerful troops of the Celestial Empire. What do you think? Bailey Qin's heart skipped a beat. Is the Tianji Empire really willing to join forces with the Blackstone Empire to fight against that brat Qin? Why not? If the Celestial Empire destroys the Blackstone Empire, it will not be a good thing for the Tianji Empire, right? Ha! Bailey Qin laughed and said, Marshal Bai Minghuan is indeed a wise man. Then it's a deal. Marshal, please write a letter and send it to Tianji City. I will also send troops to the Baimang Mountain to destroy the remnants of Lin Muyu's troops. Good. On the 18th of the 6th month outside of Tongyun Pass, the sound of drums shook the heavens. The densely packed Longji army and wolf soldiers covered the sky and covered the earth as they rushed over. Finally, Feng Lan decided to launch an attack on Tongyun Pass. If they did not break through Tongyun Pass, the iron hooves of the Tianji Empire would never be able to conquer the fertile land of the Seven Seas province. Amidst the beating of the war drums, rows of cavalry opened up a path. In the center of the army, a majestic war chariot moved slowly, like a high platform. On the chariot stood many generals including Feng Lan, Duo La, Lin Tongtian and the others. Dragon riders soared in the air. This time, Feng Lan had sent out almost all the guards in Muyu City, planning to fight to the death with Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Xiaoli. Is the gift ready? Feng Lan asked. Duo La smiled and said, Don't worry, Commander. It's ready. Once our projectile equipment is installed, we can present it to Tang Xiaoxi and Ouyang Yan. Lin Tongtian frowned and said, Don't underestimate Ouyang Yan. She used to be called the Dancing Fire God King in East Heaven, and was probably the strongest God King in East Heaven. When she was about to step into the God Emperor realm, she was banished by the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor. Otherwise she would have at least 70 grotto heavens by now. Duo La smiled and said, Lord Dragon Rider, you're worrying too much. No matter how powerful the Dancing Fire God King is, she's just a useless god. It's said that Lin Muyu helped her reconstruct her personality, but the godhood given by others is ultimately different from the godhood she has, so the compatibility won't be too high. Therefore, no matter how strong Ouyang Yan is, she's just a useless god. Lord Dragon Rider, you don't have to worry at all. If they dare to come out and fight, leave Tang Xiaoxi to me and Ouyang Yan to you and your group of dragon riders. I believe the dozens of dragon riders from the Tianji Empire together should be able to defeat a useless god, right? Duo La's words were full of provocation. Lin Tongtian's group of dragon riders all revealed looks of anger, and even Gong Yangjin was rather indignant. Duo La's style of doing things had always been overbearing, but there was nothing she could do about it. She was Claude's angel, and her status was not just any ordinary noble. Even so, everyone was still unhappy. After all, Lin Tongtian was one of the 3 great dragon riders of the Tianji Dragon Riders, and also the vice-captain. He was very open and kind and was respected by everyone. Now that Lin Tongtian was being bullied, it was inevitable that everyone would feel a little unhappy. However, Duo La really did not think much of the dragon riders in front of her. Among these dragon riders, the strongest was Lin Tongtian, who only had 45 grotto heavens. Compared to Duo La, who had a divine weapon, he was still much weaker. As for the other martial venerables and martial warriors, there was no need to even mention them. In Duo La's eyes, they were just a bunch of idiots riding giant bugs. The carriages were getting closer and closer to the city. When they were about 800 meters away, Lin Tongtian immediately raised his frozen ice spear. One by one, the dragon riders pounced forward, forming the dragon imperial spiral to protect the front. After all, the battle formation had already entered the range of the magic crystal cannons. They had to be on guard. Very quickly, catapults were constructed one after another. These catapults were designed with torsion, and their projectile strength was not bad. However, when they were set up 500 meters away from the city, they might not be able to throw the giant rocks onto the city walls. They clearly did not have enough strength. What are they trying to do? Qin Xiaoli squinted her eyes and stared into the distance. She had already unsheathed her sword, and a group of cannoneers on the city walls had already loaded the magic crystal cannons. As soon as the order was given, they would immediately fire. I don't know what they're trying to do. Tang Xiaoxi bit her red lips and said, pass down the order. Prepare to fire the magic crystal cannons. Wait a moment. Ouyang Yen said, their positions are all under the protection of the Dragon Imperial Spiral. If we fire like this, it will only be a waste of precious magic crystal cannons. Why don't we wait until they give themselves away? Alright then. Not long after, the catapults were ready. Many soldiers struggled to twist the springs to the limit. Then they placed one black object after another in the grooves, and with a swish they launched the projectiles. In the air, black shadows fell on the city walls one after another. Suddenly, a very unpleasant stench came from inside the city. What is it? Tang Xiaoxi was stunned. A chiliarch pushed the crowd aside and looked at the objects on the ground. He could not help but frown and said, Your Highness, it's corpses. They are throwing rotten corpses into the city. What? Tang Xiaoxi was stunned. She immediately thought of something and said loudly, It must be the corpses that have been infected with the plague. Men, fire. Don't touch these corpses. Use the fire to burn them on the spot. Yes. Everyone looked at the army of the Tianji Empire in the distance. They could not help but feel a chill in their hearts. They were so cruel. They actually separated the corpses of the civilians and the soldiers of the Tianji Empire, and then threw them into the city. They wanted to use these corpses to destroy the morale of the Qin army. How vicious. Chapter 898. Hua, hua, hua. In the blink of an eye, the area in front of Cloud Pass was covered by a dense crowd of people. The infantry and shield soldiers of Long Ji's army were at the front. Every 5 steps they took, they would strike their shields with their blades, and at the same time, they would let out a deafening roar, causing the Qin soldiers on the city wall to stare in shock. Many of them had never seen such a formation before. Moreover, the city wall could only accommodate about 20,000 soldiers, which meant that the soldiers on the city wall had to fight against an enemy 5 times their number. They are going to attack, Qin Xiaoli said lightly. Strange, Fang Lan didn't send the wolf soldiers as cannon fodder. What are they trying to do? It seems that Fang Lan is determined to get this Tongyun Pass. Otherwise he wouldn't have sent the most elite Long Ji Corps. An old general said slowly, Princess Shi, the enemy is too strong. I suggest that we only use magic crystal cannons and ballistae to kill them from afar. Forbid them from getting close to the wall. It's better for us not to go out of the city. Qin Xiaoli nodded, yes, I agree. Tang Xiaoxi nodded and looked at the busy soldiers of the Qin Empire. She said, well, let's do as you say. Right at this moment, a messenger suddenly dashed over from afar and said loudly, Princess Shi, the latest battle report from Lingdong. Read it. The Luo River Estuary Fortress and the Winter Frost City have fallen one after another. Now the troops of the eastern region have been divided into 2 parts. One part is led by His Highness Qin Yen and is guarding the steel wall of Cangnan Province. The other part is led by His Highness Yu. They have crossed the Qinling Mountains and are heading to the Dragon-Slaying Pass to meet up with Su Jintao's troops. There are a total of 50,000 people. Along the way, many people have been robbed and killed by the Tianji bandits. The whole Lingdong province has fallen. Has Mu lost? Tang Xiaoxi looked at him in disbelief. The head soldier replied, yes, Your Highness. The Tianji Empire has deployed twice as many soldiers as the Lingdong province. Moreover, they are coming from the sea. His Highness, you can't defend against them at all. Qin Xiaoli frowned and said, no wonder Fang Lan took the initiative to attack after hiding in the Muyu city for so many days. It turns out that he wanted to cooperate with Baiming Huan to break the Empire's defense from the east and the north. Once the 2 armies are connected, the entire north and east of the Empire, except for the Tongtian Gorge, will be under the control of the Tianji Empire. I can't hesitate anymore. Tang Xiaoxi held onto the battlements that were scorching hot from the scorching sun and heaved a long sigh of relief. Her gaze gradually became firm as she said, Qin Xiaoli, pass down the order for the 3 armies to prepare for battle. The frontline army will leave the city camp and use the Qingquan tactics to last as long as they can. Other than that, Send a letter to Commander Feng Jixing at Yunzhong Pass and ask him to lead the elite troops to attack from the south and launch a pincer attack from the north and south to defeat Long Ji's army in one move. Yes, your subordinate understands. The war drums thundered, and the sword and shield soldiers, archers and cavalry soldiers, who had long been prepared, rushed out of the city, fearlessly charging into the enemy's formation. This battle was unavoidable. War was always about exchanging lives for lives, and no one had a choice. In the blink of an eye, 6 huge Chengkuan battle formations formed under the city gate and slowly rotated to resist the attack of Long Ji's army. Qin Xiaoli's Chengkuan tactics were personally taught by Feng Jixing, and it was quite charming. At least it had 70% of Feng Jixing's power. The 6 battle formations were like 6 steel gyroscopes that slowly rotated and actually made the elite troops of Long Ji's army unable to take a step forward in a short period of time. They even suffered heavy losses. Until the enemy sent out the Dragon Knights, the Chengkuan battle formations slowly collapsed under the situation of the lack of divine power reinforcements. In the blink of an eye, 2 of the 6 battle formations were devoured by the enemy's army. We can't wait any longer. Tang Xiaoxi bit her red lips and a touch of golden light flashed past her eyes. She said, "O Yang Yin, let's fight together and kill as many Dragon Knights as we can." Yes. Princess Shi, please think thrice. Qin Xiaoli cupped her fists and said, "You are the princess of the Seven Seas province and the commander-in-chief of the 3 armies. How can you personally go into battle? If anything were to go wrong, the entire Seven Seas province would be in danger. There's no need to say any more." Tang Xiaoxi smiled faintly. Even His Highness Lin Muyu has to personally go into battle, let alone a mere Princess Fuguo like me. Furthermore, he and I are both gods and are different from you guys. This is a responsibility that we have to bear. Ouyang Yan, let's go. Without waiting for Qin Xiaoli to say anything, Tang Xiaoxi and Ouyang Yan had already turned into 2 balls of flames and flew from the city wall. Their speed was so fast that it was shocking. In the blink of an eye, they were already in the sky above the battle formation. Tang Xiaoxi instantly transformed into her 9-tailed form and her entire body was wrapped in flames. Her sharp claws descended from the sky and landed heavily on the dragon head of a Dragon Knight's mount. Bang! With just one palm strike, the huge dragon's brain splattered and it died. "Demon woman, how dare you kill my mount?" The Dragon Knight was furious and stabbed his long sword at Tang Xiaoxi. The blade of the sword was surrounded by sharp winged blades. This was a Dragon Knight who cultivated the law of wind. His energy was rippling with the power of the 17th level Grotto Heaven. He could be considered as a mid-tier Dragon Knight. Unfortunately, his opponent was Tang Xiaoxi, one of the few existences in the Qin Empire. The sound of the sword slicing through the air was extremely sharp, but Tang Xiaoxi was already prepared for it. She retracted her body, and a bewitching light flashed in her right hand. It was the ghost tome of the Nether Springs. The energy of the ghost tome rapidly condensed, and like a whirlpool, it dragged the opponent's sword downwards. Tang Xiaoxi's lips curled up, and her left palm heavily pressed against the opponent's neck. Bang! Flames seeped out of his body and this palm strike almost broke all the meridians of the Dragon Knight. Bastard! The Dragon Knight spat out a mouthful of blood. He was still unwilling to die so tragically in such a battle. The dragon sword danced and instantly launched 5 sharp slashes. However, the attack power was not as strong as before. Moreover, Tang Xiaoxi was almost unharmed. The demon fox's sharp claws danced and blocked all the slashes of the Dragon Knight like steel. Just when the Dragon Knight used up his last breath, Tang Xiaoxi opened her 5 fingers and a fire god seal flew out. God seal. The Dragon Knight howled miserably as it turned into a pile of ashes and fell to the ground. Tang Xiaoxi raised her head and saw that Ouyang Yan was fighting with another Dragon Knight. That Dragon Knight was stronger than Ouyang Yan. His cultivation was at the 27th heaven realm. He was one of the best sacred martial venerables in the Qinji Empire. Swoosh. The Dragon Knight's figure rose rapidly with a fierce flame. When the 2 flame powers of Tang Xiaoxi and Ouyang Yan collided with each other, the Dragon Knight spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated. How could he withstand such an attack? The 2 beautiful women in front of him were both at the God King realm. They were so powerful. Out of the 2 Dragon Knights who were supported by the Dragon Defense Spiral, one was killed and the other was injured. Suddenly, the entire battle formation of the Long Ji army became empty. Tang Xiaoxi waved her finger and the soldiers of the Qin army on the ground understood. One by one, the archers pulled out their magic crystal crossbows and quickly shot fatal arrows. In the next moment, the light of the magic crystal cannons exploded in the enemy's crowd. At least 500 people were killed or injured in an instant. After losing the protection of the dragon defense spiral, the combat power of the Longji army was only slightly stronger than that of the Iha country's army. They were not even as strong as the armor demon army of the demon race. In the sky, balls of flame crisscrossed. Tang Xiaoxi and Ouyang Yen had defeated 5 dragon knights in succession, so that the other dragon knights did not dare to come forward to protect the battle formation. As a result, the magic crystal crossbows of the Qin army shone brightly and the whole situation was reversed in the blink of an eye. "Be careful," Ouyang Yen suddenly said in a low voice. Her voice penetrated into Tang Xiaoxi's ears and was very clear. A tyrannical power rippled in the sky. Pa! Lightning flashed. Someone broke through the void. Sure enough, a battle angel carrying a spear descended from the sky. 4 black wings spread out behind her. Her face was very beautiful, but she had a ruthless aura that did not match her age. She thrust the spear in her hand straight at Tang Xiaoxi's head. She laughed sinisterly and said, "Tang Xiaoxi, you can die now." Duo La was too fast, far faster than Tang Xiaoxi had expected. So much so that Tang Xiaoxi had no time to dodge this fierce attack. She could only raise her arms and condense the Firefox martial soul and the flame shield to protect herself. Bang! The shield shattered in an instant, and the heavy divine power came crashing down. There was a total of 57 heavenly paradises. Only the heavens knew how Tang Xiaoxi managed to break through to this stage in such a short period of time. After the Fergus spear shattered the shield, it continued crashing down and landed directly on Tang Xiaoxi's divine wall. Another crisp sound rang out, and the divine wall was actually pierced through. However, taking advantage of this rare opportunity, Tang Xiaoxi stepped into the void and dodged her opponent's fierce attack. Intense pain and emptiness came from her body. The destruction of the divine wall meant that she had lost at least a third of her divine power. She would not be able to return to her peak state in a short time. She raised her hand and blasted out a ball of flames. Bang! Duo La did not dodge. She spread her 4 black wings and condensed a resplendent divine wall in front of her. Just like that, she blocked Tang Xiaoxi's Fire God Seal attack. She smiled proudly and said, "How is it? How is my divine wall?" Tang Xiaoxi's eyes were cold. She did not say anything. The person in front of her was far stronger than her. Especially the 4 wings behind her. They were brimming with an aura that made people feel uncomfortable. In the air, Ouyang Yan's figure slowly descended and stood side by side with Tang Xiaoxi. She was surrounded by raging flames and divine power gathered to form a divine wall. She stared coldly at Duo La. "You are the Duo La who killed Luo Xen?" Tang Xiaoxi asked. "That's right." Duo La lightly waved her spear and smiled faintly. "I am the black-winged battle angel Duo La, the ruler of the Western Divine Realm, Lord Claude. Greetings, Princess Tang Xiaoxi. Greetings, Divine King Ouyang Yen. I am here to take your lives." "Don't talk nonsense," Ouyang Yen said coldly. "You are just an ant. Why are you acting like a big shot here? What did you say?" Duo La's hatred rose to the sky. Chapter 899. Once Duo La was enraged, the surrounding light seemed to be absorbed by her. The scorching sun in the sky suddenly dimmed, and the 4 wings on Duo La's back emitted a piercingly cold black light. With just a low roar, her strength had increased by at least 30%. She was much stronger than when she was fighting with Tang Xiaoxi. Ouyang Yen slowly opened her arms. She knew that Tang Xiaoxi needed a short period of time to recover. As for Duo La, she was the one who infuriated her. She could only swallow this bitter pill. Ouyang Yan's figure disappeared in a flash. When she reappeared, there was a ball of fiery red in the sky. Divine Monarch Fire Dance, who was at the 55th Grotto Heaven stage, wasn't just for show. She formed a blade with her palm and slashed a flaming blade at Duo La's shoulder with the power to devour the heavens and the earth. Buzz. Duo La knew that Ouyang Yan's attack wasn't simple. She didn't want to waste her divine power to take it head-on. The light of the time dagger in her hand flowed gently. Suddenly, time seemed to stop as she floated away from her original position. Swoosh. Ouyang Yan's palm strike that was supposed to hit its target actually slashed the air. Then a cold air came from behind her. It was Duo La's spear stabbing. Without thinking, Ouyang Yan turned around and kicked. Her snow-white leg, which was covered in strands of raging flames, landed on the Fergus spear. In fact, the tip of her foot didn't even touch the spear. After the strands of flames wrapped around the Fergus spear, Ouyang Yin suddenly pulled it in a split motion, forcibly pulling Dora's body off balance. Boom! A fist filled with flames suddenly landed on Duo La's shoulder. This time Ouyang Yin succeeded. However, her fist only landed on the god wall and didn't cause any substantial damage to Duo La. "You're courting death." Duo La's face was filled with shame and indignation. She was a dignified four-winged angel. How could she lose to a trash god from the Eastern Heaven realm? However, Ouyang Yin was too smart. She had long seen through the secret behind Duo La's spear being able to easily penetrate the god wall. Therefore, she used her fire divine power to drag it through the air and didn't make contact with Duo La's spear. This made Duo La feel as if she was stabbing into cotton and couldn't exert any strength. Instead, she was being continuously attacked by Ouyang Yin's fire divine power. Her emotions and blood began to become chaotic. Whoosh! The Fergus spear lashed out once more, aiming straight for Ouyang Yin's shoulder. But this time, Ouyang Yin didn't just rely on her light divine power. The dagger of time in her other hand also glowed faintly. Suddenly, time went berserk in a small area, as though it had accelerated in an instant. The Fergus spear turned into a bolt of lightning and drilled into Ouyang Yin's shoulder. Golden blood splattered everywhere. Ouyang Yin let out a miserable groan. She had not expected that the dagger of time could not only slow down time, but also accelerate it in a small area. Her mind could not keep up with the speed of time, so she naturally could not dodge or block it. Dola had taken advantage of this. She had already calculated the changes in her moves, but she had not given her opponent any time to react or change her moves. Get lost. He raised his battle boots and heavily kicked Ouyang Yin's abdomen, causing steam to rise into the air. The clothes in front of Ouyang Yin's chest felt like they were about to be burned away. Moreover, Dora's strength was too great. The kick almost caused Ouyang Yin to lose all her strength. She turned into a ball of flames and fell into the fortress behind her. It's your turn. Dora tidied up her hair that had been messed up by Ouyang Yin. She looked at Tang Xiaoxi with a disdainful smile and said, "What are you without the dancing fire king?" Tang Xiaoxi stood in the wind with a gentle smile on her face. "What are you smiling at?" Dora gritted her teeth. She hated women who were more beautiful than her, so she hated Tang Xiaoxi very much. She wanted nothing more than to cut Tang Xiaoxi's delicate face into pieces, and if she had the chance she would do the same. Tang Xiaoxi looked at her leisurely and said, "Nine-tailed is a demon. That's what everyone says." "So what? What does that have to do with me?" Dora was a little impatient. She raised her Fergus spear and said, "To me you're just a corpse." Tang Xiaoxi giggled. "Yes, I'm a demon. Too many people are afraid of me and only a few dare to get close to me. Mu is one of them. Xiaoyin she should accept my identity. I've never dared to show my true face to others, afraid of disturbing their world. But when you injured Ouyang Yin just now I thought it through." "What did you think it through?" Dora sneered. Tang Xiaoxi also smiled. "I thought, I want to protect my home, protect the people I care about even if..." She trembled all over. The flames in her body seeped out, and the surrounding air became even hotter. Even if what? Dora actually felt a trace of threat. "I want to protect them." Tang Xiaoxi's entire body trembled as an endless amount of power surged out from her high. Her eyes turned blood red, and on her forehead, a tender and moist fiery red horn protruded. Her power continued to surge and her expression became exceptionally ferocious. "Even if I really am a demon." Boom. Divine power completely rippled out, and with Tang Xiaoxi's body as the core, she launched a series of flame attacks. Even Dora couldn't help but retreat dozens of meters. The next moment, Tang Xiaoxi in the air had already transformed into another appearance. 9 blood-red flame tails danced lightly behind her, and blood-red scales appeared on her arms. Her eyes were blood-red, and there was even a horn on her head. But her power had at least doubled. The second stage of the nine-tailed transformation, Demon God Transformation. Tang Xiaoxi had never dared to reveal her true form in front of the world. She was afraid of scaring everyone. Even now, many of the Qin army soldiers on the ground were so shocked that their eyes and mouths gaped open. Many were even shouting that she was a demon. Right now, Tang Xiaoxi's appearance was indeed somewhat frightening, although she was still as flirtatious and seductive as ever. Dora frowned. "Although your power has increased a lot, Don't you think it's too early to boast like this? Do you think you can defeat me with your current power? We'll know if we can or not after we try. Tang Xiaoxi gripped the ghost tome in her hand, and her lips curled into a smile. Her body blurred, and in an instant she appeared before Dora. Her hand that had turned into a sharp claw swept out. Dora was almost caught off guard and was sent flying. Her body tumbled dozens of meters in the air, and cracks appeared on the walls of her divine body. Blood seeped from the corner of her mouth. Not bad. Her smile grew even more ferocious. The black wings on her back were fully extended, and she thrust her spear at Dora. Time suddenly accelerated and she used the same trick again. However, she did not expect Tang Xiaoxi to be even faster. Her body flashed, and her fist that was covered in flames landed heavily on Dora's back. With a loud bang, Dora was once again hit, and blood flowed from his nose and mouth. Impossible. This is impossible. Dora looked at Tang Xiaoxi in disbelief. How could she dodge her accelerated attack in the blink of an eye? Bang bang. In the blink of an eye, another 2 punches landed. Even with the dagger of time in her hand, Dora could not dodge Tang Xiaoxi's attacks. She spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backward. She shouted angrily, "Why? Why?" Tang Xiaoxi did not say anything. Demonic energy surged from her body. The only thing she wanted was to kill this Dora. She was too much of a threat to the Empire. If she did not kill her now, it would be even more difficult for her to do so after she became a god emperor. Moreover, Tang Xiaoxi was well aware of the consequences of transforming into a demonic god. Prison of flames. After Tang Xiaoxi let out a low cry, a fire barrier appeared around her, trapping Dora within. Countless flames rose up, and all of them were extremely biting cold divine power of the laws of fire. In an instant, Dora's skin was scorched and her flesh was split open. She raised her Tig's spear and howled in agony. Tang Xiaoxi's eyes were cold. She opened her palms and increased the power of the prison of flames. It was only a matter of time before Dora was reduced to ashes. Amidst the raging flames, Dora forcefully activated the light barrier to protect her body from being destroyed. She shouted, "Luo Fei Dori, what are you waiting for? Waiting for me to be killed?" In the air, 2 figures rapidly flew over. The one in front was Luo Fei, who was holding a shield. Vast divine power was enshrouding the surface of the shield. With a shout, he smashed the shield toward Tang Xiaoxi's head. Tang Xiaoxi's figure flashed, and the flames of her demonic god transformation caused Luo Fei to vomit blood as he flew back. However, the power that Tang Xiaoxi controlled also became chaotic, and the prison of flames instantly disappeared. Dora's body was almost charred black, and there were many wounds on her flesh. She howled in agony as she retreated with her spear in hand. She shouted angrily, "Let's go!" Luo Fei and Dori hurriedly protected her as they escaped. Tang Xiaoxi looked at them from afar. She did not say anything. She turned and flew in the direction of the fortress. The demonic god transformation suddenly disappeared, and she returned to the beautiful Tang Xiaoxi. Pada, her small boots lightly stepped on the bricks of the city, and Tang Xiaoxi let out a breath of turbid air. "Princess Shi, are you all right?" Ouyang Yan and Qin Xiaoli came forward. "I'm fine." Tang Xiaoxi shook her head. She walked down the steps of the city wall under the escort of everyone. Every few steps she suddenly fell to the ground. The flames on her body surged and she convulsed in pain. She vomited blood, and her expression was indescribably ugly. "She's suffering from a backlash." Ouyang Yan hurriedly hugged Tang Xiaoxi, and used her own divine power to resist the backlash in her body. In the blink of an eye she was already sweating profusely. As expected, Tang Xiaoxi was unable to control the power of the demonic god. This transformation was truly too forceful. After transforming once, the internal injuries in her body would take a long time to recover. Qin Xiaoli's hand was on the hilt of her sword. She looked around coldly. "Pass down my order. The Second Army is to prepare to leave the fortress to fight. Do not stop. If the Longji army retreats, immediately chase after them and chase them 20 miles away." He knew that the momentum that Tang Xiaoxi gained by risking her injuries must not be wasted. Otherwise, once the commander of the Longji army noticed it, the Tongtian fortress was destined to fall. Chapter 900. The White Mang Mountain was filled with endless mountain ranges. The mountain paths were abnormally rugged, and very few people traversed it on normal days. But now thousands of troops were traversing the mountains. The Longdan Army Camp, the God Might Battalion, the Zither Dragon Army, and the other legions had a total of 50,000 soldiers. These troops were the elites and seeds of the various legions. Lin Muyu placed great importance on them. Under the scorching sun, Taksha kept snorting through her nose. She must be thirsty. It was very troublesome to find water in the mountains, especially in a high-altitude area like the White Mang Mountain. Dense forests could be seen everywhere, but there might not be any streams. Wei Chou grabbed the reins. His eyes were a little dazed as he ran. He really did not know when he would reach the end. Have the commoners settled down? Lin Muyu asked. Suer nodded. Yes, a portion of them are in the safe zone of the Tiger Subdue Pass. The rest are in the villages along the way. The White Mang Mountain is too dangerous. We can't let the commoners follow us anymore. Lin Muyu heaved a sigh of relief. That's good, that's good. Oh yes, have you gotten in touch with the Dragon Subduing Pass? Not yet, Wei Chou said. Oh, at this moment, a black figure slowly descended from the sky. It was Situ Sen, who was riding on a fire dragon. Now he had almost become one with the fire dragon and could even use the dragon's imperial spin. It was a pity that there was only one dragon knight in the entire Longdan army camp. He was unable to attack or defend the area, and was not very useful. He could only be used as a scout. I found the water source. Situ Sen pointed to the southeast and said, it's there about 10 miles from here. But I also saw a few familiar birds. What birds? Situ Shui asked. Wolf falcons. Situ Sen said in a low voice, I suspect that there are dragon knights from the Blackstone Empire lying in ambush in the forest beside the water source. If that's the case, I'm afraid that we have already been targeted by the people from the Blackstone Empire. Lin Muyu frowned and asked, are there any other water sources nearby? No more. Zheng Yifan, who was leading his horse, stroked his beard and said, Your Highness, everyone is tired. After all, most of the soldiers are just ordinary people. We've already traveled 80 kilometers in the mountain forest overnight, and we've already drunk all the water reserves. If we don't find a water source as soon as possible, I'm afraid that the people and horses won't be able to hold on any longer. Yes. Lin Muyu looked towards the southeast and said, regardless of whether there is an ambush or not, we have to go to the water source. Wei Chou, take the 3,000 men of the Vanguard Battalion and prepare to fetch water. The rest of the soldiers follow closely behind and prepare for battle. Yes, Your Highness. The army marched forward in a zigzag manner. The remaining 10,000 cavalrymen were simply like the flesh of her heart. Lin Muyu couldn't bear to let these horses and cavalrymen die again. After all, most of the territory of the Qin Empire was made up of plains. The final victory would definitely depend on the cavalry. These people were the foundation of the empire's future. At the edge of the mountain forest, there was a green lake that looked like a mirror inverted in the grass. This was a very large lake, enough to supply 50,000 soldiers and 10,000 horses with water. However, behind the lake was the lush forest. From afar, there was not a trace of movement, except for the occasional startled birds. Wei Chou pulled the reins tightly, and his eyes were like torches as he looked at the forest in the distance. Your Highness, do you think it's safe? It's not safe. Lin Muyu shook her head and said, you see, even the birds in the sky don't land in that forest. It's enough to prove that there's an ambush there. Then what should we do? We have to fetch water. Even if there is an ambush, we have to seize it. Otherwise, we won't be able to leave this white forest alive. Lin Muyu raised her sword and said, take some people to fetch water. I'll go take a look. Yes, be careful. Don't worry. Wei Chou lightly waved his hand, and immediately the 3,000 soldiers of the Vanguard Battalion spurred their horses out of the forest. Each of them had a bucket of water in their hands. If they weren't riding horses, they would look like a group of ascetics going down the mountain to fetch water. Lin Muyu held the Ice Origin sword and stepped into the air, slowly arriving above the forest. Her eyes swept across the tranquil forest. Within the Spirit Pulse technique, a strong aura had already appeared. It was the ambush troops. However, these ambushing troops probably didn't expect that there would be only one person. The rest of them were just fetching water from afar. Under a huge leaf, Zhou Juanxiang, the general of the Azure Flame Army, gripped his sword hilt tightly. His eyes were like an eagle's as he looked at the Vanguard Battalion of the Valiant Dragon Legion and the figure in the sky. He frowned and said, what's going on? Only one person has come. Shouldn't we have sent a group of scouts to investigate this forest? The deputy general beside him said, Commander, then what should we do? Should we fight or not? The main force led by the commander is still at least 2 hours away from here. We only have 20,000 people here. We fight. I'm afraid we won't be a match for them. I heard that this Lin Muyu had once beaten the Flowing Spirit army to the point where they couldn't even fight back. Even Baiming Huan couldn't do anything to such a ruthless person. If we fight, I'm afraid the situation will be very disadvantageous. Zhou Juanxiang laughed coldly. Motherfucker, the commander only sent 2 Saint Warrior level Dragon Knights to help us. I'm afraid they won't even be enough to fill the gaps between the teeth of the Qin army. Why should we be the idiots? Pass down the order, everyone, don't act rashly. Let them fetch water and pretend we didn't see anything. When we go back, just say that the Qin army didn't pass through here. If anyone dares to say anything, I'll make them pay. Yes. However, at this time Lin Muyu had already flown over. He looked at the forest indifferently and suddenly raised his palm. Instantly, a golden elephant wheel danced in the air. He muttered something as though he was saying something. What is he doing? The deputy general was stunned. Zhou Juanxiang's grip on the hilt of his sword tightened. He said, I don't know. Don't move. Yes. At this moment, an earth-shattering force suddenly came crashing down. It was the formless Elephant Arts Mountain Force. Lin Muyu had already made use of the White Mang Mountain's mountain force to launch a crushing attack on the forest. In an instant, the ground suddenly collapsed and hundreds of meters of the forest trembled and turned into a basin. The soldiers inside were howling miserably as they were crushed into meat paste. How could they possibly have the ability to defend themselves? God damn it! Zhou Juanxiang's face was pale. What kind of power is this? It's actually so tyrannical. Even a god emperor might not have this ability, right? Is this Lin Muyu still human? The deputy general looked at the tragic scene and said, at least a few hundred of our brothers have died. What do we do? Take revenge for them? Dang. Zhou Juanxiang pulled out his sword and bellowed, what are you waiting for? All of you get on your horses and charge over. Chop off the heads of Lin Muyu and Wei Chou. Capture Su Yu alive. I want to have a taste of this 100-year-old Sun Yang. Kill. Sounds of killing rang out in the forest. When Zhou Juanxiang led his troops and charged out of the forest, they were met with the main infantry force led by Dragon Knight Sidu Senator. Countless soldiers from the Longdan army camp with shields and long spears flew out. The long spears in their hands were 3 meters long. When the two armies got close to each other, they quickly put down their shields and pointed their long spears forward. The handles of the long spears were pierced into the ground. They used these sturdy iron spears to block the fierce cavalry of the Blackstone Empire. The troops that Zhou Juanxiang led were all light cavalry, but they were most afraid of this kind of spear formation. When they charged, many of the cavalry were stabbed to death on the long spears like candied fruits. In addition to the random shooting from the magic crystal crossbows, the formation of 10,000 people started to show signs of collapse in the blink of an eye. The first charge, the second charge, the third charge. By the fifth charge, Zhou Juanxiang's eyes were bloodshot, and his mind was about to collapse. Rumbling sounds could be heard all around and the ground kept sinking. This was the result of Lin Muyu's formless elephant spell. The area around the vanguard became several meters deep, and they even lost their path of retreat. Kill them. Sidu Sin raised his sword high. Don't use the magic crystal crossbows anymore. Use the long spears to kill the cavalry. Don't hurt the warhorses. Aha, these warhorses are mine. In the midst of the chaos, Zhou Juanxiang's expression became more and more unsightly. Under the protection of a group of guards, he urged his horse to charge into the basin. Bang! The front hooves of the warhorse were broken and he fell to the ground. He hurriedly used his sword to support his body. He didn't even care about the group of guards as he desperately ran for his life. Lin Muyu coldly looked at the chaotic battle, and her voice sounded like it was descending from the heavens. The soldiers of the Blackstone Empire are cruel and ruthless, and they love to massacre cities. In this battle, don't leave any captives. Kill them all. After the battle is over, immediately collect water and retreat according to the predetermined route. The grassland was completely filled with hand-to-hand combat. Wei Chou, Situ Sin, Situ Shui, and the others were all champions who had experienced many bloody battles. Facing such a scene, they didn't hesitate at all. On the contrary, although the soldiers of the Blackstone Empire were cruel and ruthless, when faced with this steel-like army, they all revealed cowardly expressions. Not only did Lin Muyu's subordinates outnumber them, they were also more tyrannical. In the blink of an eye, 10,000 of them had become targets for slaughter. The entire grassland was dyed red with blood, and the corpses of countless soldiers fell into the mud. In less than 2 hours the battle was over. The Longdan army camp had defeated the enemy with less than 1,000 casualties, and beheaded 10,000 soldiers. Other than the enemy's commander Zhou Juanxiang who had escaped, the rest were all killed. To Lin Muyu, another good thing was that she had obtained over 8,000 sturdy warhorses. She quickly distributed them, and as a result the 50,000-strong army had nearly 20,000 cavalrymen. In the afternoon the army quickly collected water and left. They didn't even have time to bury the corpses. War had always been like this. How could there be so much hesitation and emotions? It was a race against time. Perhaps a single incense stick's worth of delay could lead to the annihilation of the entire army. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.